Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of WIC TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. Today, we have a show for you. The Trump admin has come under fire for a variety of recent scandals involving corruption, which begs the question, who is more corrupt, the Trump admin or the Democrats? Is there any comparison? What we're going to talk about today is whether or not the Trump admin is the most corrupt presidency administration we've had in our lifetime. We are excited to be here. We got some great guests. Dev is on his way. He's getting coffee. He is Canadian. You got to forgive him a little bit of his lateness, but we're going to get into it. And I want to give the mic first to Pisco. He has a bit of a long-winded opener, but that's okay. And then we're going to just go around the room. Pisco, mic is yours. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I hope it's not too long-winded, but thank you guys all for coming. In general, I think that it's notable that people like Ryan Mullally and Rob Noor and average debate enjoyer didn't show up to this, cause that they spend so much time talking about, which is this comparison on corruption. So I just want to say that that's notable, but it's not surprising because this issue is like not a difficult one. I take corruption to be the use of entrusted authority or power for unlawful or improper motivations. And on this, it's like just a staggering amount of evidence that the corruption of the Trump administration is way galaxies bigger than anything even alleged of Democrats. We'll start with some choice quotes. Ann Coulter says she thinks is the most, quote, corrupt presidency in U.S. history. Andrew McCarthy from the National Review says the difference between the Biden family business and the Trump family business in terms of the allegations, you'd have to add 2 digits to the sum of Biden abusive powers, foreign entanglements, and corruption alleged in the House Republican report to get near to what Trump has raked in just from the United Arab Emirates. Ben Shapiro has said that Trump is agreed was radically corrupt. Tucker Carlson has said similar things. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Megyn Kelly, Nick Fuentes, even among the class of Republican commentators, it's widely known that Trump is insanely corrupt. And I started making a list. I spent like 20, 30 minutes just jotting things down. and I had to stop because it was just like too much that we're not going to have time to go over. But I put some big buckets, and I just want to go through at least some of those big buckets. The first is on political prosecutions or attempted political prosecutions. You have Comey twice, one for the alleged lie, bullshit lie to Congress, one for 8647. You have Letitia James, Adam Schiff, attempted political prosecution, the quote unquote seditious six, Mark Kelly, Alyssa Slotkin, Jason Crow, Chris Deluzio, Maggie Goodlander, Representative Chrissy Howland. Trump directed the DOJ and Pam Bondi to go after Obama. He said to investigate it for treason. The prosecution or the attempted prosecution of the sitting Federal Reserve Chair Powell, and also Lisa Cook as well for the mortgage fraud stuff. In terms of interference with the Department of Justice, another bucket, he ordered the Department of Justice to end all Jan 6 terrorists with prejudice. All of those charges were dropped with prejudice. This was before he pardoned them all. The Mayor Adams case, where this was in a quid pro quo for immigration help. The DOJ slush fund, the quote unquote anti-weaponization fund. We're talking about $1 billion plus, where he's on both sides of the V, suing his own government that he controls. The Department of Justice and the IRS did a tax liability waiver in addition to the anti-weaponization fund. They dropped the DOJ investigation into Tom Homan, dropped multiple investigations, including the DOJ investigation into Elon Musk. They prevented federal cooperation investigation into the murder of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. They released Alexander Smirnov, the Russian asset who falsely accused Biden of corruption. In terms of the Bureau of Prisons, additionally, they downgraded the severity of the confinement conditions for Ghislaine Maxwell. They shut down the entire crypto investigation enforcement team at the Department of Justice. They fired all manner of inspector generals whose job it is to report corruption. Again, that's just the stuff that I'm spitballing. There's more. Corrupt pardons, the Jan 6 pardons of seditious conspiracy, Oath Keepers, the case of Joseph Swartz, where you have millions of dollars being paid to lobbyists with connections to Trump and to members that are close to in order to get a pardon. Those are fraud related to nursing homes. He was indicted under Biden. The similar pardon of Paul Walkaz, stealing millions from nurses and healthcare aides. Very similar lobbying scheme. So it's an open door in terms of bribery for pardons, to say nothing of the pardon of the Binance CEO, who also has ties to United Arab Emirates and helped on this World Financial Liberty coin and the stable coin and everything that was happening with the crypto stuff. The pressure campaign against the state of Oregon to get Tina Peters pardoned. On the Epstein files, he called the files an Obama hoax. He uses official power to try to cover them up. He uses administration to hail in dissenting Republicans into the Situation Room to coerce their votes in the Epstein Transparency Act. On agency actions, immigration actions filled with corruption, viewpoint discrimination against students, schools, attack on law firms. The USDA did a rule reversal from the Department of Agriculture at the request of Pilgrim's Pride, one of the biggest donors to the Trump inauguration. You have the ICE contracts with conflicts of interest for Kristi Noem, Stephen Miller. Trump took a $50 million stake, the Defense Department, into Vulcan Elements Company. This was a mineral company that Don Jr. had an ownership interest into and loaned it $620 million. The valuation jumped to $2 billion just because it was Donald Trump Jr.'s investment. He ordered U.S. Coast Guard bases and facilities to sell his own branded wine and cider. He blocked this bridge in Detroit where Howard Lutnick has an interest in the other bridge. He's raking in billions on the UAE crypto scheme, to say nothing of the Trump meme coins, which is a rug pull of his own people, where entities that are funding the meme coin include North Korea, Iran, and Russia, aligned people, fundraising to promote private national security briefings, the Qatar airplane bribe, government contracts to the ballroom donors, and more. The FIFA shit. It is not ending. And it's crazy to think that there's anything among the Democrats that even is close in comparison in terms of the amount and the sort of nature of the corrupt offenses.
Okay, well, thank you for that. You weren't kidding with the long-winded, but we'll get to it. Dev's internet's having problems. Hopefully he can fix it and we can get here soon. But the show must go on. We're going to give it to Streamrift, please.
Well, of course, always appreciate an opportunity to discuss topics like this with Pisco. Appreciate Gibbs for showing up too, and looking for Dev when he gets here. The prompt here is the Trump admin more corrupt than Democrats? And that's an insane and indefensible position. Obviously, Trump as one man, or even as one admin, cannot compete with the entirety of the DNC. Now, I had a nice bunch of prep here, but I'm going to actually go over some of the things that I heard while Pisco was laying out his case. First, he had to start out by crying about Ryan and Rob not wanting to be here, and that was an interesting opening move, but fine. If we're going to do that, we'll do that. But one of the things that stuck out, he said, then even alleged. They say, oh, he says this is worse than what was even alleged. Bill Clinton's alleged to have gone to Pedo Island in the Epstein files 33 times. Now, we can say that's just an allegation, but your standard was even alleged. If we go to that far, most people are going to say both sides eat babies and want to destroy the future for our children, to disagree on the methods and how we'll get there. So I went ahead, I put together a document. I'll make this available to everyone. There's no shortage of corruption of, for example, we'll go specifically to the DNC. We're not even going to say all Democrats. In fact, I'm going to go as far as to say most rank and file Democrats probably themselves are not corrupt. So I wouldn't go doing that. However, the DNC has managed to do something really impressive. Allegedly, it represents the interests of Democrat voters. Democrats unite, they raise money, they do their digital ground game. They get all excited and they say, fuck MAGA, fuck conservatives, vote blue no matter who, things like that. I'll give you 3 issues: voter ID, men and women sports, and deporting criminal aliens. I bring these up and you say, perhaps, oh, these are conservative talking points. Why are we dealing with them? Well, the answer is simple. Voters, Democrat voters, unambiguously vote and poll. We know they want these things, but the DNC doesn't like that. And so when we have an entire establishment that's able to get itself elected against the will of even the people that claim to support it, I'm far more concerned with that level of corruption of the entire fucking machinery of the United States government than I'm about one man who I think you're not being fair to. But even if I grant every argument you made, it doesn't touch the fact that the DNC has hijacked American interests for decades. So no, I don't think Trump's more corrupt.
We'll get into it, I'm sure. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Dev, can you hear us? Are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Beautiful.
And I was listening to the opening on my phone while fixing things. No, it turned out the when I was moving all the boxes and stuff, that like the cable in the router got unplugged and I had to restart it. But I'm here.
Welcome.
And I've listened to Pisco's huge opening, and he covered pretty much everything that I wanted to cover in it. So there's no point in going over it again. I will just add one thing. I focused primarily on financial corruption because I don't really know the law that well. I did a video on it, and I'll point out one final thing that Pisco didn't point out. I did the math in that video, and it turns out that Trump's corruption has brought in more in just raw dollars than the entire net worth of the Bidens, the Pelosi's, the Obamas, and the Clintons by about 10 times. So even if you believe that all 4 of those families, every single dollar they've ever earned has been corruptly earned, which is ridiculous. Even if you believe that, Trump still has them beat in raw dollar value.
What's that rough dollar amount you have? Yeah, real quick, just okay.
It's between $3 and $4 billion for Trump's corruption.
Okay. Well, we'll get into it. Thank you for being here, Dev.
No problem.
We will get into it as we go. Sorry. Gibbs, please.
Yeah, I won't be as long as them. I think it's rich that these people, these fine individuals over here, are going to compare Trump's alleged corruption to what it amounts to basically Tammany Hall at the national level. I mean, basically what Pisco laid out is equivalent to a bunch of bloviating by a bunch of fish on the weekend. It doesn't matter. It's not really that important. It's all alleged. If we want to go down the alleged route where everything alleged is true, I don't think that's a game they really want to play based off all the things the Dems are accused of. But I did a little math. Pisco is right about one thing. Just based off from 2024 to 2025, the Trump administration has recovered double the amount in fraud than the Biden administration. They covered about $3.1 billion. The estimates I'm seeing are saying in 2025 they recovered 6.1, and they're on pace to hit similar numbers this year. And they've upped the ramping of the convictions and indictments, which I have the numbers of those as well. It's a substantial amount. So whenever they inevitably say that, Biden was the one who started looking for the fraud here, this is actually a continuation of his first term. We see a lot of this going forward. Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of substance to any of this, and most of this is not affecting me as a taxpayer. I believe most of our politicians are corrupt. I believe they probably all eat babies, as Steve said. I'm just not buying that Trump's more corrupt than them. I see him more akin to the forest fire that burns down the forest and all the brush so that the new forest can rise up and help everybody out equally. And that's kind of where I see it at right now.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for being here, guys.
Of course. With that, the floor is open to discussions. If I tell you to shut up, please shut up. It's because you're talking over each other, and I might have questions as we go. But with that, go ahead.
So
I'm just going to touch this. I'm going to touch
Tammany
on
Hall. Tammany Hall is like a corrupt democratic machine that existed in New York, and so I think that's a concession that it's corruption from the Trump administration. If you say
I'm calling the Dems. I'm saying the Dems, or if that wasn't clear, the Dems, the Democratic Party right now, is Tammany Hall at a national level.
And based on what? What is the evidence of democratic corruption that you've introduced?
I mean, we could look at the fraud, the healthcare fraud. We double the amount. We're seeing all the fraud in California.
You mean the
We're seeing
healthcare fraud that you acknowledge that the Biden administration was going after in your opening
I did not
statement?
acknowledge. Once again, I said I knew for the inevitable comment that that was going to come, that we can look at this, and I have
Do you
the numbers.
disagree with that factual circumstance? The Democrats went after that corruption?
I absolutely do. I mean, I don't disagree they went after some
In
of
virtue
it.
of what do you disagree with the Democrats? Okay, so here's the evidence. Here's the evidence.
Okay, we're already talking over each other. Okay, so just real quick, Gibbs, why don't you believe this? And then once you say that, we can give it to Pisco and Dev to give their evidence of why it's true.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's real simple. Well, one, I sat here and I crunched the numbers. Right? I looked at them and I said at the beginning, like, okay, this was going to be their claim that the Dems looked into this. Well, sure, they looked into it, but it's really they gave out low hanging fruit, so that way they could point and say, hey, we got him. And then when I look over here, we're seeing, 455 defendants have been charged this year alone with over 6.5 billion alleged fraud just on Medicaid. We're looking at 295 defendants. That's about 518 million in broad state participation acts right here. That's national healthcare fraud. That's under Trump. That was 2026, 2025. We're looking at over 324 defendants charged, over 14.6 billion in alleged. This dwarfs what the Dems did under these under administration.
Yes. So even if it were true, and I don't believe your numbers, I think these are all AI generated. I think you're reading from an AI script.
I mean, they're not.
But even if I believed your numbers there, right?
You got to let Pisco respond. Pisco, go ahead.
Even if I believed your the number comparison there, that Trump was just better at getting fraud, which is an obscene thing to say after you can see him moving DOJ resources off fraud to go to immigration. They're completely shutting down the crypto fraud and antitrust divisions of the DOJ and their inspector generals. So your accounts here are completely absurd and obscene and insulting. What I will say is, even if I believed it, to say that the Democrats were like worse at enforcing fraud, which again I don't believe, wouldn't itself be corruption, correct? Yes or no?
Well, hold on. If we're moving off the immigration, and the immigration is fraud, it's a type of fraud, and there's millions of illegals. Well,
did you hear what I just asked?
Yeah, I did. And now let's get a new question.
What was my question?
Listen,
the question is, you're pointing to like more fraud cut under Trump. Again, I'm telling you, I don't believe your numbers and your calculations.
I don't believe your numbers.
Well, but you're just running him over. You're just literally dropping 5 to 10 different Pisco.
I mean, yeah,
you're dropping like 5 to 10 things and not letting
you hear the question. I want an answer to the question. The question is, why would that amount to corruption by Democrats if they were less good at rooting out fraud done by private persons?
That's real simple. Where do you see these fraudulent actions being taking place? In what states? They'd be in major blue cities
across the country,
right? In major blue cities. Mm-hmm. And
answer the question. Why would it be the
case?
I
answer the question. Hold on. You can interrupt me every time I answer. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop answering. It's in major blue cities. It's in California. It's in Oregon. It's in Minnesota. We're seeing this time and time again. And then when we see it in places like Texas, guess who it's being done by? It's being done by Democratic Party members.
But that's not the question you were being asked, right? So an administration.
You gotta hold on, Gibbs. You gotta let him ask his question.
An administration led by Democrats, you concede open investigations into fraud in Minnesota, correct? Yes.
Yeah, they didn't do a very good job because they're clearly.
But the question is, if they were doing a policy of willful blindness, what you're suggesting here is the fact that it's happening.
As well, by the way.
Let me finish what I'm saying. So, if it were the case that what is happening is they're overlooking, they're being willfully blind, you wouldn't expect to see, would you, them initiating corruption investigations and bringing charges?
Yeah, you would. It's the whole point of having a fall guy. If they go after a couple of ones, so let's say I've got this great idea. I know we've got these wonderful fine daycares in pick a city, or we'll just imagine. And we've got all this money coming. We say, look, we got to at least pretend. Let's get a few of them. And then, of course, some are going to get away with it.
So of course you're wrong. Of course you're wrong that in terms of the nature of the cases.
If they were so good at prosecuting it, why wouldn't they have stopped it?
So first of all, which cases are you saying are the fall guys? You don't have any idea what you're talking about. So which of the types of cases that you say that you're characterizing right now in front of hundreds of people as fall guys? What kinds of cases are those?
When you get done,
you don't know the first thing about these cases, do you?
So what I'd like to do is talk about the Democrats, the DNC in particular, are way more corrupt. So how do we get from what you're talking about to that? Because I'd like to talk about how 2016,
you just made an allegation.
DNC decided to put Bernie off of the fucking ticket, even though people voted for him.
So you want to move off of it because you have no evidence for your claim.
I'm fatigued by the way that you attack stupid
You're
thing.
fatigued, in other
Come
words,
on.
of saying that you don't want to talk anymore about this claim that you made. You made a separate claim.
Okay, what's the
It's
claim?
a growing. Wait. So you made it's a growing and evolving story, and your growing and evolving story is what explains the fact that according to whatever AI summary that he's reading to, sorry.
Well,
the
I mean,
actual-
how about the audio logs from the AG?
Okay.
I mean, you see that's again
Okay,
the AI
what
makes
ex-
the audio
what
logs from the AG
explains-
up. I have the audio logs from Keith Ellison right now.
so
I can
the
pull
evolving-
up. So that's not AI, buddy.
Hold
It's
on.
also-
Your
it's
gain.
also- it's
Hold on,
also-
Gibbs. Housekeeping thing. Your gain. I don't know what's wrong with it. Are you using
So
the
the
right mic?
evolving story is as
crazy.
follows.
I mean,
This is the evolving
once
story.
again-
When
once
it
again,
was brought to your
I mean, you
attention.
say
Now you're way
that,
too
look,
quiet, dude.
Yeah, now
You're
we
way too
can't.
quiet.
Okay, how about now? We better now? Is it better?
So the evolving
All right, in
story
under
is as
30
follows.
seconds, what is it?
The
Under
evolving
30
story is as
seconds, what is
follows.
it?
Yes. Let me finish. Is when it was brought to your attention that these fraud prosecutions, many of the core ones, started under Biden. Your response was, well, these are patsies, these are fall guys, and you don't
Well,
have any
I-
evidence for that
I-
claim,
I-
and that's why you want to
do
move
have
off of it, correct?
No, I don't want to move off it. I have evidence for that. Keith Ellison even says not to go after certain people. We have this on file with the Minnesota.
What
And
did
this
Keith
is one of the
Ellison
places-
say?
I mean, why don't you look it up? If you're not prepared, that's not my
You're the
job.
one- you're the one bringing up-
Hold on. First I'm using AI. Now I'm providing an audio log. You can look up yourself.
You
where
haven't
he's
provided
admitting on
jack
faith.
shit. What
Hold on,
is the
you're
quote from
one-
Keith
You
Ellison?
made a whole bunch of claims. Once again, Keith Ellison says they want to not insert themselves in the political arena on certain issues in regards to Somalis. This is like, I'm basically summarizing because it's like a 3-minute conversation. We have audio on, but we're sitting here saying
You
this
don't
is
have
something we know about.
Quote? So you're saying Keith Ellison says we
Well, I'm
need
not going to
knock
read
out
3
fraud?
minutes of paragraph like sit here. I'm not going to just spur.
What is
I'm
the
just sitting
essence
here.
of
You
what
want
he's
to
Okay,
saying?
say
What-
give
what
us-
are you-
the essence is you're sitting here. Why would they do this? Well, we know they have a machine that's entrenched. We know this is something they're doing. We're going after that machine. We're seeing how these Democratic funded government, these senators in Minnesota put money back into the Democratic campaigns. They see this over and over. We're seeing this.
You were asked what
California
Keith
as well.
Ellison
And
said.
You asked
You were
why- no,
asked
I'm
what
talking
Keith
now.
Ellison
I'm talking now. You
said.
didn't answer any of my questions, so I'm going to keep going. And so when I sit here and I
What
look
was the
at
question I didn't
healthcare,
answer?
and when I look at the healthcare in California, I look at the healthcare in Minnesota, and I see the fraud going forth, and I see more people being indicted under Trump in 2 years than were the entire time under the Biden administration. And they recovered double. It's pretty clear to me that when we can trace this back to the Democratic Party and the funding of them, that it's
You've
clear one party has a
failed.
national system.
Okay.
You've
I mean,
failed.
it's
Okay.
logic-
You're-
you failed logic class. A
You
plus
got.
B
Hold
equals
on,
C, brother.
Gibbs. You got to let him respond to that. You got to really
Yeah,
let him
I did
respond.
Oh, no, I do want to let Dev go, but the last thing I'll say on this is you were asked what Keith Ellison said that substantiated your
You can look it
proposition.
up.
It's
I already have.
it is your factual claim that the
Mhm.
reason that we are seeing prosecutions be initiated and investigations initiated under the Democratic leadership at the Department of Justice, I'll let you know, Keith Ellison is not a DOJ official, so what he says doesn't bear on what the Department of Justice did. But
Attorney
again, that's
General.
how laughable that
Yeah,
the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota, correct?
Yeah, that would be the Attorney General.
Okay,
So what do they do? What does the Attorney General
so
do?
why are you
in a state?
so I was correct.
What
He
is-
has
what
no
is- What does the Attorney General do in a
the
state?
Attorney General of the state of Minnesota, and I'm talking about the Department of Justice under Joe Biden. And under Joe Biden, there were federal investigations, and your response to that was, as you co-signed, that
Okay.
this is to make fall guys. It's actually just to
If they hit
it's to
low-hanging
make fall
fruit,
guys.
they
That
didn't
was
get it,
your
and then-
claim, and to support that claim, you said, "Well, look at what Keith Ellison said," and I'm asking what Keith Ellison said, and you're not responding to that.
Right. Listen, what I'm saying is, once again, we have evidence. I'll just read the quotes. I think that's the easiest way. I'll read 2 of them. Yeah, there's the 2 quotes from Keith Ellison. It says the only way to protect what we have by inserting ourselves in the political arena by putting votes where it needs to be. Most importantly, putting our dollars in the right place and supporting candidates who will fight to one of our interests. One of the Somali community says in the recording. And then that's right. Ellison responds. So he's agreed. Then we later find out this is someone that's convicted of fraud.
I'm sorry,
And
did
then-
anyone
hold on,
understand how?
Let me finish. Let me
Did anyone
finish.
understand that?
Okay, once again, I mean, listen, mate, open your ears, Papa. You talk fast, I talk fast. Get some notes. There's an AI program you were just talking about. It takes notes for you. I took a meeting in good faith with people I didn't know, and some turned out to have done bad things. Oh, wow, it's crazy.
What? Can
So-
you
so
can
your
you
standard-
translate that
just to be
for
clear,
the?
Hold on, you were the one who said everything
just to be
alleged,
clear,
bro.
your standard
You're the
of
one who
corruption.
said that.
So,
That's
so,
your
so,
standard.
so this is to be clear on your standard of corruption.
That's
is
your
that
standard.
So your standard of corruption, because you're going to get eviscerated by this the minute we start talking about Trump.
You're the one who said
Your
alleged. So I
standard,
said, okay,
your
sure, let's do
standard
that.
for corruption is Keith Ellison took a meeting with a guy who was bad and did fraud.
And then he agreed with the fraudster on what they needed.
Oh,
to do
really?
in
That's not
order
what
to
that
win.
quote said. That quote
that
said,
is
"I
exactly-
agree with the fraud."
Well, we
Why
read
don't
the
you
quote.
give
We
us
can move on.
Okay,
read the quote.
yes,
You
I
read
do
the
want to
quote.
give
It
it
didn't say
to.
what you said.
Hold on.
Okay.
I do want to give it to Dev a little bit. He's
Yeah.
been trying to get in here. Dev, you're muted on your end.
Yes. Okay. So, Gibbs, just real quick, you're talking about this here, right? This is what you're reading off of?
That's one of them.
Yeah. The National Healthcare Fraud Takedown results in 455 defendants charged in connection with over 6.5 billion in alleged fraud. Okay.
That's
And
one of
I
them.
decided, while you guys were talking, I decided to skim through this. I wanted to see what was going on. Cases in 56 federal districts, 45 U.S. states and territories, 50 state Medicaid fraud control units participating, the most in department history. Let's see, what do we got here? There's one defendant from Karenia, who had a $3.7 billion scheme. Two defendants from Estonia, $10.6 billion in the Philippines. Okay. I read through the whole thing. Where are the Democrats implicated in this at all?
Well,
Because there's a whole bunch of fraudsters, but nothing related to the Democrats are in here.
Yeah, why the Democrats here?
Well, you're going at the wrong angle. The whole fucking premise of that was the Democrats were turning a blind eye to it, not that they were explicitly wanting to engage. So you're changing the argument.
We do know they gave. We do know they gave.
But what's the evidence for that claim?
We have evidence. Ellison, for example, speaking of Ellison, once again, a high-level party member.
That was an embarrassing attempt at your point to say that the Democrats were doing.
You don't need to talk over him on it.
Ellison did receive donations from several of the convicted fraudsters, including the Center for the American Experiment.
Well,
so we actually took money from them?
Hold on, just wait. Just real quick,
that's
Gibbs.
Nothing.
Gibbs, you do know that it says in here that at least some of these investigations began in 2024, right?
At least some. I mean, what does that mean? I mean, I'm sure there's all sorts of investigations.
Well, that means that they began under Biden, though, right?
I also said, if you recall my opening, that many of the cases, some of the cases were even opened as far as back as 2016. So the Trump administration was prosecuting some of these cases all the way through the Biden administration.
Hold on, who was president in 2016?
Or 2015, whatever, Trump's first term, whatever you want to use. Like,
okay, who was president in 2017?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, 2016 was Obama. But no, here's the thing, right?
Yeah, so
it's clear that, like,
all the way under 2016, 2017ing, there's cases.
These investigations take years to investigate, just so you're aware, right?
That's right. Thank you, is my point.
The point is, once again, you have Trump taking credit as though Democrats were taking a blind eye towards fraud under Biden's watch. And meanwhile, you have Trump shutting down white-collar crime investigatory units, crypto fraud investigatory units. And you have the gall to sit here and talk about how horrible Medicare and medical-related fraud is. He pardoned at least 2 individuals and probably more.
You know who else he pardoned? Fun fact, he pardoned.
Go ahead. Let me
Stop
finish.
talking at some point.
He pardoned 2 individuals who paid $1 million+ in lobbying fees to get access to Laura Loomer and others to get a pardon from this administration and not have to pay back millions of dollars back to the people they defrauded in their nursing home scam. And you want to sit here and say, well, that shows the Democrats are corrupt. You're Looney Tunes, bro.
Wait, so is immigration fraud or not?
That's a different subject. Immigration fraud.
But it is a type of fraud, right? Yeah, it is a type of fraud.
Well, it is a type of fraud by private persons real quick, and doesn't implicate Democrats unless you can prove it.
Go ahead, Dev. Go ahead, Dev.
Yeah, so just real quick, Gibbs, because this, I don't believe you were reading off of ChatGPT, because some of the things you were saying are in what I just pulled up. These are real cases, and I assume the numbers are going to be they're solid. It's just that I don't see the connection to the Democrats. Like, this is real fraud. I don't think you can say that you can pin this on Democrats. I don't see the connection there.
Do you agree? Let's just maybe take a more narrow attempt real first, and then we can expand it. Do you agree that there has been some fraud in Minnesota specifically tracked to the daycare centers? Okay.
Yeah, we grant that. And Democrats and leadership in the Department of Justice under President Biden went after it, and you have no evidence that they had a willful.
Do we agree?
You have no evidence, do you? The question is, do you have any evidence that they took a willful blind eye towards that fraud?
Yeah, I mean, I just presented at least one example. We just used Keith Ellis as an example. You don't have any that. I mean,
so your evidence. This is the standard of evidence, and we're gonna. And you have a consistent standard of evidence, don't you?
You're consistent.
I just want to make
okay,
sure
you guys both of you just love talking over each other. You need to stop. Okay, let one of each other finish before you go. Pisco, we're gonna give it to Pisco. Let Pisco go, and then you can.
Because when we start talking about Trump, I don't want this to go into can you 1,000 trillion% prove this beyond any measure of doubt for some of these claims where they have not been investigations? Your standard for showing that Democrats had a blind eye towards fraud, in other words, were wanting it to happen, or at least were okay with it occurring, is the statement that you presented about Keith Ellison, where he's in a room with one of these people saying something about voters or something.
You're spending 10 minutes on something that should have been about a minute. Go ahead, Gibbs.
If that's your standard.
This is a classic. This is a great Pisco maneuver. spend
But
3
no,
hours
it's
talking
actually-
about
It's not a
something
maneuver.
stupid
It's asking
and
what your
ignore the
standard of
actual
proof
core.
is. What is
Sir,
your
I've
standard of
got
evidence?
like a dozen nice core arguments we could be looking at. Instead, we're masturbating over one very
Yeah.
narrow example.
Hold on.
and
Once
you won't
Gibbs,
accept
hold
the
on,
reasonable
stop.
presupposition.
Once Gibbs responds, okay, then we're going to move on, and you can give your next piece of argument.
I would say my standard is higher than Pisco's standard, because my standard right here is that I actually have evidence of people like Keith Ellison. We can talk about things. Tim Walz saying he's not going to run after all this fraud has come out. We can look to other examples where we see the examples in California where they were seeing it funded back in the Democratic Party. We've seen all these examples over and over.
That's
My
corruption.
standard,
Wait.
hold on. My standard isn't alleged. His standard, if you remember, was anything alleged should be brought into this. All right.
Your example of corruption is
That-
Tim
hold
Walz
on.
stepping down.
I just let you finish. Well, okay, cool. Because by your metric, all I have to do is I'm alleging that Tim Ross is stepping down because of fraud.
What is
Sole
corruption?
reason.
We have to start there. What
Like,
do you think corruption is?
Hold on. Like, so once again, I just want to say my standard right here is I at least have some evidence.
You
pointing
just
to
said
all these
Tim
good
Walz
examples.
stepping
And
down from
know
the race
these,
is
but
corruption.
You already admitted that some of these people that were committing fraud were funding money back into the Democratic Party. That is evidence of the system that I am talking about. And we're not
You
even got to
just
integration
said
part
Okay.
that Tim
But that's not
Walz
okay.
stepping down from the
Tim
race
Walz
was
didn't do that.
democratic corruption.
Yeah.
What is corruption? Tell me in your words what corruption is.
Yeah, but his corruption because he's stepping down because he knows he's been
I'm asking
caught
what
with
corruption
transcribed
is.
and fingers on.
What do you take corruption to be?
I don't know, by defrauding the government to fund campaigns.
So
Yeah, I mean, I got a nice
definition
definition
is
here.
Okay, let's hear
Oh, yeah, go for it.
hear Streamriff's definition of corruption. What is your definition
Yeah.
of corruption? That might be helpful. Go ahead.
A political class using the machinery of the party and the state to entrench itself against the demonstrated will of its own base. It's when one group, a political class, hijacks the government for other people to beat over everyone else under the head. The lightest form of it that you could argue for forever on is the Hunter Biden thing, which is a perfect example of it a bunch of different ways.
So
But let's go
talk about
bigger.
that.
Let's go bigger. Let's
Wait,
go bigger.
let's
I'm
just
gonna make
focus on
two
the
more
definition.
points. I'm gonna make 2 more points, or I'm never answering the fucking question you have. Question or point 1: there's a representation gap, and it's a big one. Democrat voters want voter ID. Democratic voters want men out of women's sports. Democrat voters want criminal aliens deported. And 70%, 80% of the time, they're consistent on this. And then what ends up happening? Our democratically elected representatives vote against their express will, and they get elected again and again. But let's go even deeper than this. Let's even go deeper on this. And then here's
Okay,
point
hold on.
two. Here's
We
point
do.
two.
Hold on, all of you. We do have to address your definition of corruption
Yes.
and whether Dev
So-
and Pisco agree with that definition. Do you think that's
It's
fair?
preposterous, right? So I'm happy to I don't really love semantic debates about like what definitions are, but just take a look at his definition as he provided. It was something about a political class entrenching itself in power above the wishes of the political of like the the people. That is such an absurd definition of corruption for the following reason. It would mean that someone taking bribes just for their own personal ends, it was something that any sensible person in the United States would say is corruption, wouldn't be corruption on that view, because that's for a personal end. It's not to entrench oneself in power. So an example of, let's say if it were true that Hunter Biden and Joe Biden took bribes to change policy for their own personal ambition, but not to entrench themselves in powers, on that view, that would not be corruption. Absurd.
So let's make a broader. So that's one definition.
So
You can add
changing your
more.
definition,
You would
right?
accept.
Are you changing your
So
definition or
you've got 2 options. You got 2
Are
options.
you changing it or
One,
not?
you can use mine. Mine is a definition of a particular type of corruption. If you want to talk about other types of corruption that don't fit under that, it doesn't mean they're not corruption. You say you don't want to do semantic word games, and you're sitting here doing semantic word games. That's why I brought
Well,
Gibbs.
I'm happy to use that one if you want. It just Trump's going to fail on that in epic ways compared to Democrats. You understand that, right?
And there's a reason why you don't want to talk
Hold
about
on, we could just
immigration,
agree
because
that while what Streamriff said is a form of corruption, it is not the only form of corruption. Correct?
I
Would you
agree with that. I'm happy to go forth with both, right? To have a broader view and a more narrow view. On the more narrow, if you want to start with the more narrow view of entrenching oneself in power, I mean, look no further than this second. We don't even need to talk about the first administration. We don't even need to talk about January 6th.
Yeah,
And
let's talk about
it is
legal
off
citizens,
the scales.
legal aliens were voting in American elections that are not citizens.
Prove that. Prove
Let's
that.
talk about
Prove
Okay,
that.
before we do any of
One
that, I want to
example
know
of
if
legal
Dev
citizen
agrees with this corruption thing. Dev is also here, and what are your thoughts?
I don't think it's a great definition, but for the purposes of this conversation, we can use it. Sure.
If you have another
Well,
one
I
you'd
would
like to
also-
add, that'd
I
be
also
great.
wanna
I think
talk
we
about
can
the other
address
notions.
Pisco,
So I wanna-
Pisco for
I
real,
wanna
brother.
address
For
both
real.
notions
For
of
real.
corruption.
I think that we
Sure,
can
yeah.
have multiple levels of corruption. If we're taking this seriously, and we're saying our government's corrupt, we shouldn't limit ourselves to one definition. We should catalog it all.
I agree. I'm fine doing it. I'm
Okay,
fine doing
great.
both notions of corruption.
Wonderful.
So we can. Do you want to start with entrenching power
Well,
corruption versus
why don't-
non-entrenching?
Yeah, so I have-
let's pick with
okay,
entrenched
here's the
power
deal.
corruption. Go
Well,
ahead.
Gibbs, let
Yeah,
Streamer
yeah,
go.
no, okay,
Streamer,
exactly.
go ahead.
Yeah, so I have literally ahead of this. I actually took some time to think through this because I figured I owe you guys the decency of having some structured argument. Also, you're clever. And so if I plan ahead, it gives me a little bit over edge over how much you do internet verbal judo. So I had to cheat that way by becoming prepared. Prepared I came.
Preparing for debate is not. Just want to say because I don't know. Listen. I think it's fine that you prepared. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't know why this norm is like don't prepare. I know Rob Noor does this a lot. Like, oh, I don't prepare.
say
That's
I
like
either,
not
guys.
good.
How many more times do you have to say Rob Noor? As I was saying,
No,
I think
just
that
saying,
the
like, it's like,
easiest
Rob,
way
you
to
don't have to
frame corruption, a
you don't have to
definition
be
of
like embarrassed
corruption,
about that.
a definition. Thank you. A definition of corruption, I think, is very reasonable. Is to say if the politicians are fucking the people. But more specific, I gave the one that I gave because I think the DNC has literally become
that
a
I wanna agree
machinery to enable all sorts of things that no one administration, no matter how many babies they ate, no matter of the Highlanders they took out, could never be powerful enough to do the amount of damage the DNC has done over the last 40 years.
Okay, that notion.
So
that notion, we're gonna have a problem with that because if what you take to be corruption is fucking over the people, then that's just a debate about policy. That includes policy, right? That would just
well,
be
so
like,
here's
it's
three
corrupt.
examples.
Wait.
So,
I want to be clear about that, right? If your
let's be
definition
clear.
of corruption is when the government fucks over the people, then that's just a broad.
Right, so this is where you do
debate about who you
pedantic
prefer.
jackassery because
what- that's
if
what
I'm
you just
talking
said.
to a normal human being, what we do is we'll use phrases like that to explain a concept and not bust each other's balls over the different ways that can mean. So that's a very meta thing here. We can do meta. That's fine. I gave you a detailed one that was organized. Paraphrase it because sometimes it's easier to go along with that, but that's fine. There's two
This is what I
big pillars on mine.
paraphrase
The
one. I just
DNC
wanna
is
make sure
more
we understand
corrupt.
each other.
Mm.
So on your notion of corruption, I understood that to be official action taken for an entrenching purpose, and I agree. An entrenching purpose is one corrupt purpose, and so that's how I understood what you were saying. And that is a notion of corruption that, is far, in my view, far too narrow. But it is a form of corruption. But if you say
by
it's
that even
fucking over the
very
people,
narrow one,
that's too broad.
neat. So there's two pieces where the DNC completely fucks over their voting base. Point one, as I was going over before, there's three solid examples I gave you where Congress voted explicitly. The Democrat representatives in Congress voted against the will of their own voters in unambiguous terms. That's not what they were elected to. They're elected as representatives, not leaders. The second is when we look at, so that's the legislator. When we look at the executive
Can you
branch,
deal with that first?
2016, we had the DNC tip the scales and pump Bernie off. So the Bernie bros are upset about this. They saw corruption on their own party side. That and the Dems, this is my clincher. We didn't even primary Kamala, and she did so bad in her prior primaries, she dropped out, I think, before we even got to any major states. I think after just a couple of states voted, she dropped out. This is not a party that gives a fuck about its voters.
It's atypical. So it's atypical. It could be true that Democrats don't care about their voters and that they're not more corrupt than Trump. It could be true that they don't care about their voters and they're not corrupt at all. Nothing about what you said addresses corruption unless your definition of corruption is just like, are they doing right by their voters? But that's just not the definition of corruption that I think any person, I think your more narrow version of corruption, that at least is some notion of corruption. But this about like the DNC and
so what about
happened
when
with
they
the
use it
primary,
to get
that's just so
over-representation for California? So they have a bunch of illegal immigrants, so they get higher census numbers, so they get more congressional seats. And they literally go against the entire fucking principle laid out by the founding fathers, clearly in the Federalist Papers and in our fucking founding documents, where we say we do not want big states, at the time New York, to beat up little states. This is essential to us having a functioning fucking government.
I'll deal with that hypothetical because I'm not scared. Your hypothetical is essentially.
I think Gibbs has something to say.
If it were why don't we just? It feels like you guys are afraid whenever we interrogate one of your points. You want to move off of it. I want to deal with what you just said.
No,
Is
you
that
have
okay?
like 90% audio time problem. And you want to spend time on
you
stupid
just
things
said
and not
something.
actually engage with some very substantive
if
criticisms of the
you're
DNC.
conceding
Okay,
that what
I'm
you
gonna
said
have
is
to
stupid.
step in. So the claim that you're making, Streamrift, is that the example you're giving is that a lot of illegal immigrants are being pumped into California to overinflate the numbers and keep Democrats in power when the people would otherwise oust them from power. Is that an accurate representation of your claim? No? Then rephrase it for me, please.
So the part of the reason that the U.S. Census happened is for congressional seat representation. And so if I have 100 million illegal immigrants, the census doesn't dispute this one way or the other. If it's a human in that state, they get Congress seats based off that. So California has, I believe, 2, possibly 3 additional seats they would not have if the census was only counting American citizens. It's not about hating immigrants. It's not about not wanting them here. It's about literally undoing the foundation of a country. 250 years is not a small thing. And a part of that is because we don't let big states beat up little states.
Yes. Now
So
they have
just
to
real
address
quick,
the claim you
the
just
Dream
made.
Risk-
Hold
I
on.
want
Streamer,
15 seconds.
They have to address the claim that you just made. And I'm going to give it to Dev and then Pisco to do so in that order.
Yeah, just real
And then
quick, because
Gibbs,
I've heard
you'll
this
be able to
argument.
rebut. Okay.
I've had it several times. I've run the math on this, and I think California gets one more seat that they shouldn't have, but so does Texas. So this is not really a big argument, in my opinion.
So it's fucking
Putting that
stupid. You're saying if it
putting
fucks
that
over one
aside-
state, then should put the other. But I want to go to Dev's number earlier. Dev has
That's
contributed
even
a lot here,
assuming-
and I
that-
want
that's
to
even
invite him in
assuming-
on this one, if that's
Hang
all
on a
right,
sec-
Pisco.
hang on a second. I want to address what you
Okay,
said
yeah,
more
we'll wait.
broadly about immigration. So would you say that, let's say that Congress makes a decision that we want to encourage immigration, and they basically remove most categories of removal or non-status, except for criminal bases. Would you say that that's corrupt because because of what your policy is on immigration, and you're changing the fabric of the country? Yes or no? Would that be corrupt on your view?
So, Dev, you said around $3 or
Can you
$4
answer
billion
that, please?
of corruption is what you've attributed directly to Trump or admin. If I double it, my number is between 10 and 11 trillion that goes to NGOs that the DNC helps fund
Okay.
from controlling
$10 trillion
congressional spending.
to
So you said there's 2
NGOs.
extra seats. So you end up saying California does have outsized representation. And it's because of, I think we'd all agree that the DNC has been pushing
so
for
You think a
immigration.
third of our
So real
national-
quick,
Crazy.
like I actually do agree that I think it's kind of ridiculous America allows illegal immigrants to be captured on the census, and then that allows certain states to get more seats. I agree
My
with
brother.
that. But I've seen people say like that means that California has like 20 extra seats, which
That's
it doesn't.
It's not corruption,
It's ridiculous.
even if you disagree with it. That's not corruption. That's what. So
It
Yes,
is.
it's not corruption.
Hang on a second. So,
It's
so-
bad, but it's
literally-
not corruption.
so-
It's
so
bad, but
let-
it's not
let-
corruption.
Let me address what you just said. So I asked you a question, which is, if Democrats with their majorities got into power and said, we're now encouraging immigration. We want to encourage immigration. We want to lower, basically make it so it's largely open borders. You have to go through a process, but we're going to just keep the criminal basis of removal, but everything else we're going to go get rid of it. Would you say that's corrupt?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you talk. Oh,
Okay, he's asking if the DNC is encouraging immigration, is that in and of itself corrupt?
Well, it depends
No.
on kind. If it's illegal,
I'm gonna
say
immigration,
no.
yes. If it's-
Intrinsically,
if
it
it's
is not.
immigration,
No,
then no.
Okay, and the reason that's a good answer, because the Declaration of Independence that we just celebrated, the 250th year, one of the first charges by the founding generation is the following quote: "He has endeavored," that is the king, "to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands." So what does that say? There is a textually committed basis in the Declaration of Independence that the encouragement of migration and immigration and getting rid of barriers to immigration is
What's the implication
consistent
there?
with
Hold
our national credo. And so
Sure.
there's nothing about that
Sure.
that's
And
inherently
then- but hold on.
Okay,
Pisco. This
Gibbs,
is the-
respond, please.
Here's the problem with that. One, what that's talking about is legal immigration, right? And even then, at that level, I'll argue once again that there's also problems when you do stuff like many counties, and I can start listing all the counties if you want me to. This is from Ballotpedia, but we got Oakland, San Francisco, both allow legal non-citizens to vote. I would argue even legal non-citizens voting is corruption. But let's go further.
Stop right there.
You
Why is it
got
corrupt?
Gibbs. You got to stop doing this. You're making a claim.
Why
They
is it
want to
corrupt?
Hold
talk about your
I'm
complaint.
trying.
claim,
Hold on, I'm trying.
but then
I'm
you,
trying to
what
talk
you do?
about
Hold on, stop, Gibbs. What you do, and this is
Okay.
Pisco needs to stop interrupting too. To be clear, right?
Yeah, but I
But
can't
hold
even
on,
make my
Gibbs,
claim
Gibbs,
because I
Gibbs,
have one
please.
part
You're
of my claim to-
interrupting
hold on,
me.
okay.
Why are you interrupting me? But you
Well, because I
go,
have a
you
claim
make
that I
a
wanna finish.
statement, and that's something that we want to talk about. But then
Sure,
you
I know.
keep going, and you make like 3 or
Right.
4 statements.
No, well,
Let's
here's the
stick
problem,
in
Rick.
one.
Here's the problem.
Let's
Here's the
stick on
problem,
one.
Rick. I will do that. Hold on, here's the problem. Is I wait, and then when I try to lay out a case after we listen to Pisco.
Yes, they need to stop interrupting you, and I'll stop that from happening.
All right, that's fine. I have a point here. But I would argue legal immigration is good, right? But legal citizens voting, it goes against Constitution. I would argue that's corruption. Now there is a
Okay,
component-
okay, great.
Hold
You
on,
made that
hold
claim.
on,
Let's talk about
let
it.
me finish. There's a second part of this that's important, And I can't even move on to this until I get the second part out. The more important part is when y'all sit here, even if I grant that is not fraud, there's still examples like the Iowa superintendent. Now, let's say low-level person at a low-level position that you are voting in. And the argument that I'm about to make is that whenever we have examples of people that were here illegally, we have people in the House that one of the ladies was here illegally, getting government positions at low and mid-level positions, that is actually more dangerous and more indicative of what Stream Rift is talking about, where we have the government going, oh, okay, we're entrenching these people, the Dems are entrenching them within the government, and it's a system and a machine, as opposed to what Stream was laid out with, oh, it's Donald Trump is one man and a smaller administration. There's a 50-year machine.
Yep.
It's not a filibuster.
Okay.
Listen, it's only a filibuster if I'm not making
okay. I want to give the other side a chance to respond to the 2 points you just said. You got to let him respond.
I do have a response, Gibbs, but it's not quite to what you said, but it's on a previous thing that you mentioned. I do want to respond to something though. Okay, so let's go down a bit of a rabbit hole together. Okay, so I'll bring this back up, and we talked about this earlier, and you mentioned Keith Ellison in relation to this, and I couldn't find Keith Ellison in here, but I decided to go and look up. I decided to go and look at what you're talking about, right? So I found this. This was published, and this is The Cost of Doing Nothing: How Tim Walz and Keith Ellison Fueled Minnesota's Fraud Explosion, which is a crazy report that was just released by the Republicans.
That's not what I'm quoting, but that's a good one too, I guess.
But yeah. Well, I wanted to find the source of the claim that you're talking about. And maybe you didn't get it from here, but I went down the rabbit hole. Okay, I went down the rabbit hole live while you guys were talking. So I discovered that the claim is that Governor Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison limited or stopped investigations into the fraud, and that's sourced here from 78. 78 says, see letter from the chairman of House Commission House Committee on Oversight. Yep, Comer. So I decided to go find that letter. I found the letter. Here it is. And he says the same thing, that evidence is being destroyed and that it's not, these two people have decided to use their powers to stop this investigation. And I was like, well, where the fuck does that come from? And then the source in this letter is the website americanexperiment.org and the article Feeding Our Future, Keith Ellison Caught on Tape. So I found that article, and here it is. Feeding Our Future, Keith Ellison Caught on Tape. And this looks like a right-wing kind of sloppy-list
a quick
page.
question for you here, though.
Well,
that's $250 million of fraud.
Why do you end of it? Okay,
you got to let him finish, and then
I'm looking through it. I promise. They're making claims here. There's a few quotes in here. There's some videos of Keith Ellison caught on tape. But the one that they're sourcing is this one. Is when Ellison says, "This is the first I'm really hearing about it. This has not come to my attention until now." And these two statements are in contradiction to his previous statement that he had been deeply involved for 2 years in holding Feeding Our Future accountable. So you can actually criticize Keith Ellison. So where he said, hey, your office said you were involved in holding these people accountable, and then 2 years later you said you hadn't heard about it. You can properly criticize him for that. But this in itself is not evidence that he tried to stop the investigation.
Just real quick.
Not at all.
So are you arguing that he's just inept?
He could be, yeah. I don't know.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'll grant it. You know what? Sure, the Attorney General and the Democrats in general. I agree. Thank you.
So understand what so this conversation is not about alleged ineptitude. And if you want to say ineptitude, that having corruption occur under your watch constitutes itself corruption, then we, again, have a big problem with the Trump comparison, which is what this debate is about. And since you guys don't want to go deep into your actual definition of corruption as it relates to immigration, I tried to engage you on that. You don't want to do it because you know you're going to be cooked. Let's just start talking about
immigration.
Notorious.
Hold up, you're making an accusation yourself.
You guys made a bunch of claims. You got to let him respond. Dev went through one. Pisco gets to go through one, and then we can go, right?
On the immigration stuff, basically what was said by Gibbs is that he doesn't agree that legal permanent residents should be able to vote in any context. But that doesn't show corruption. How does that show corruption?
What does the Constitution say about legal citizens voting?
Yeah, the Constitution doesn't say that one needs to be a citizen to vote. Show me where it does.
It doesn't say that. It doesn't imply that. There are no laws regarding citizens voting.
There's a U.S. law on the books that says that U.S. citizens, in order to vote in federal elections, you need to be a U.S. citizen. But the Constitution doesn't address municipal elections and who has a right to vote in those. And
So
states have for many years allowed legal. So my question is, but even if that's wrong, why is that corruption? Let's say that it's wrong as a matter of law. Are you saying that
you got to let
is that
them answer that
corruption in your
question
view?
though, right? You just ask them, why is it corruption, right, or wrong for non-citizens to be allowed to vote in local elections? Is that a correct?
Why is it corruption? Is the question.
Why is
Whether
it
you agree with it or
corruption?
not,
Gotcha.
why is it corruption?
Okay, I'm going to give it to Rift and to Gibbs to answer that question. Rift, why is that corruption?
I mean, on the very narrow framing you're putting it, that itself isn't. In fact, it's supported by the entire concept of federalism and the 10th Amendment. And if individual states want to do that, that's fine.
So let's move on.
When fuckstick states, you dumb cunt, when fuckstick states like California turn it into, we're going to give everybody with a driver's license a voter ID card, and internally they make it very easy for their citizens and non-citizens to be able to get into the federal ballot box, it is fraud. Now we can argue omission, commission, intentional, otherwise. However, it is literally fraudulent when you are creating a system that allows people to circumvent election law. It's conspiracy. Go ahead.
A second. So you understand conspiracy and fraud to be equal to having, in your mind, insecure election systems. That is the meaning of conspiracy and fraud. Yes or no?
That's not what I said. You're making shit up.
Oh, hang on a second. So is it your position or not that having insecure, what you deem to be insecure election systems, is that fraud and, in your words, conspiracy or not?
I said what I said.
I'm asking you.
Rephrase
directly.
it for the audience, please.
You're asking me a question in a reframed light to pull out a binary that isn't something. I don't hold either position.
I'm repeating.
It's one of the shittiest things that you do in conversations. I'll repeat what I said then. I'll repeat what I said.
Repeat what you said, please.
What I said was, when shit-skin states like California allow for their driver's license process to basically hand out voter registration and make it very easy for non-citizens to get access to federal ballot box, that becomes fraud. That's corruption.
Is that an ad hoc rule, or is there a principle behind it? So is that an ad hoc rule? It's only when California does it or a shit stink state does it? What's the I'm trying to extract the principle from your rule there, and that's why I asked you the question. Are you saying that abiding by what you deem to be an insufficiently safe and secure election system, is that in and of itself fraud or conspiracy? That's what I'm trying to draw. I'm assuming
I never said
an arbitrary or ad hoc rule.
It has to have the intentionality. Whenever you're ready, it's the intentional.
Okay, so if it's so since what you said is there's an intentionality to get illegal immigrant voters, what's the evidence for that?
Well, that's easy.
They're funneling fucking money to non-citizens in California to get them to show up. When you create the fucking financial incentive, when you create sanctuaries,
to show up for what?
Fundamentally DNC policy. To show up for being in America. Go ahead.
So what's the evidence that the DNC is trying to get illegal immigrants out to vote? That's what I'm looking for.
I mean, listen, there's Skid Row. I mean, hold on. Let's just take this as an example.
You have nothing.
Can you hold on? I do want you guys, Gibbs, and I'm going to give it to you, Gibbs. He asked, what is the evidence that the DNC or the Democratic Party or Democrats in general are funneling money to get non-citizens to the ballot box?
Yeah, I mean, I would argue. I think StreamWave started done a fantastic job setting this up. It's really the incentives, right? If I set up a system, say, hey, come here, you're not going to be prosecuted if you come here illegally. Then I say, hey, we'll even give you a state ID, which makes you like a quasi secondary class.
Where's the evidence of
intentionality? You can't be full. Hold on, okay, listen. It's called deductive reasoning. I know that's something you should have as a lawyer, so let's just use that real quick. If I'm sitting here, I'm going to use this. I think the best is best shown by example. I own a ranch in a small town outside San Antonio, right? I actually live in San Antonio, but I have a ranch outside, right? And so I could run there. I have a homestead there. If I wanted to claim that as my primary residence, all right. Now I have family and friends there. Hold on. Listen, I listened to you the whole time. It was very polite. Just I'll wait.
Yeah, but now, I'm not telling you my fucking life story.
No, there's an example here, right? And this is going to prove from the Republican side, this would also be fraud. If I win an election or I win get somebody in there, and what I do is go, okay, I'm now allowing, since I only have a 51% majority, legal citizens to vote. We'll get enough people to allow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and get as many legal immigrants from Mexico, and I'm going to put them on my ranch, and I'm going to start saying, okay, boys, you've been here just enough now time. You're going to come vote, and I'm never going to get unelected ever again, because anytime the margins disappear, and that's fraud. That's depriving the American public.
Yeah. So what is the evidence?
To get their voice heard.
So the question is, the question wasn't answered. So the question wasn't answered. So the question wasn't answered.
Example that's happening over and over again.
The question wasn't answered. So the question will be repeated. And the question is as follows: what is the
Do
evidence that you have?
sanctuary cities invite people to
Sanctuary cities are
to come to America illegal? The answer is yes. We know that.
So sanctuary cities have nothing to do with what you're talking about.
Why is Alex
absolutely
Preddy
do.
dead? You brought up Alex Preddy. Why is he dead again?
Sanctuary
Because
cities.
it wasn't a sanctuary city?
So sanctuary cities. So the death of Alex Preddy isn't what this is about. This is about corruption.
You talked about it in
and,
your fucking 10-minute opening.
So you don't understand because you're low IQ. So the reason I brought up Alex Preddy and Renee Good. So
I
the reason I
remember
brought up
you
Alex
saying
Preddy.
something in
The
your
reason I brought
blog.
up.
Hold on.
The reason I brought up Alex Preddy.
Yeah, help him out, Wick. Stave him.
I'm not saying I'm allowing him to finish his statement. Everyone
I
gets to
agree.
finish their
Yeah.
statements
Okay.
here. I'm trying, okay, to get you guys to finish your statements. Pisco, finish your thought.
Yes.
Be brief. Then we got to move on.
The reason I brought up Alex Preddy and Renee Good in the context of a corruption debate, not an immigration debate, not a trans debate, not whatever, voting system security debate you want to have. The reason I brought up Alex Preddy and Renee Good, it relates to Trump's interference in the Department of Justice in preventing the Department of Justice from working alongside the state investigators in that case. Unlike what is typically done in these kinds of shooting is to work together. That's what was done also in the Charlie Kirk shooting. That's what I'm calling corruption. As part of a track record of the administration that has so far been completely unrebutted of political interference in the Department of Justice. I've laid out case after case after case. You have nothing to say in support of those decisions and the rampant corruption that we're seeing, and is acknowledged by your own fucking propagandists like Megyn Kelly, etc.
Okay.
The whole fucking reason why Alex Preddy and Renee Good got shot was because state authorities stopped working with ICE. So for you to say that feds should then comply with the investigation, the blah, 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 is kind of fucking weird, because if the states were being cuddly with ICE, Renee Good and Alex Preddy would still be alive.
You just fuck yourself, right? You know what you just said? You just fuck yourself, right? You just said that because the state, in your mind, you don't agree with their sort of policy on immigration and collaboration with the federal government.
I didn't say whether I agreed or didn't agree with it. I'm just saying there's an
officer-involved shooting of a federal agent, that they should scuttle the investigation and refuse to collaborate with the state where one of their citizens just died. You really believe that when Trump was allegedly elected president under this government, that he didn't have a duty and obligation to have genuine investigations into members of his own electorate, into people that he swore an oath to protect, and that because a state government disagrees with his that it's somehow justified or not corrupt to politically involve oneself?
I'll one up you. The Biden administration literally sued the state of Texas while it was trying to do the federal duty of protecting the fucking border. The executive administration Biden admin didn't even fucking it wasn't bad enough they weren't doing literally the whole fucking point of uniting as states is partially to help protect borders. So first of all, then when the executive, then the executive branch takes government resources to prevent a state from being able to fulfill the obligation the executive branch itself is failing at doing, is insane.
So Biden was based in that lawsuit. It's not corruption, even if you disagree with him. I supported the administration in that lawsuit, and Biden
don't doubt
won.
that you support that.
Biden was being successful in that lawsuit. None of that is corruption. What we're acknowledging from the Trump administration is a rampant, unrebutted history and track record of political interference in the Department of Justice. And you guys have nothing to say in the defense of the administration, which was partly bandying about this notion of weaponization. You have nothing to say about the anti-weaponization fund, the slush fund.
I have lots to say. You just brought it up, though, and you won't fucking shut up. So I can't engage with your points because you bring up 15 of them at a time.
So everything that you brought up are policy arguments regarding immigration, what you said about Keith Ellison.
Stop policy arguments. You're so fucking stupid at this.
The fraud examples instantly debunked. The Keith Ellison connection
Steel man at one
by
sentence.
Dev.
Steel man at one sentence. What was my position? I brought up those policies.
Instantly debunked. And so now the question is before you. Defend the corruption of the Trump administration involvement in the DOJ. Defend it.
So since you're slow, I'll go ahead and we'll walk through this. Voter ID, men and women's sports, and deporting criminal aliens is exactly what Democrat voters want, and their representatives don't do it. So when consistently voters are voting with their dollars at the taxes and they're in the ballot saying, here's the money, tax money to execute on.
That's not corruption, even if
here's
the
people we want to do it.
Corruption, even if it
and
were
then
true.
they literally act against explicitly what they're that's the whole foundation of the
wars, right? Did Trump say no wars? And so he's corrupt on your view?
So
That's fake
Yeah,
news.
so
or
you're making
no,
a
you
category
cunt.
error. A
Answer the
category
question.
error.
Okay,
Answer
The
the
category error
question.
is that you're
Oh, yeah, the
comparing
category error
admin
is
to
related
the
to Trump.
entire group. Right? No, you've got
Okay,
the
well,
team.
here,
Yeah,
let's
give it
just
Dev.
let's just cut
Dev,
through
let's
it.
give it to
Let's
Dev.
just-
Give it to
yeah,
Dev,
let's just cut
and
through
then
it real
I'm going to read
quick.
some super chats after Dev goes
Okay.
because I need to make a little
So-
money. Dev, go ahead.
So just real quick, do you two agree that the Trump crypto rug pull stuff, that was corruption? Like, yes, obviously it was.
Not necessarily. I can grant it for this argument and still dumpster it, but yeah.
Okay,
I don't-
Gibbs,
Wait. Why not dumpster it? That's one of our main
That's
contentions
true.
too. Is
Because you guys
corruption
want to
related foreign
masturbate
payments.
over a number, and I think that the entire institution. Well, you're sitting here on YouTube and Twitch screaming and crying like schoolgirls about Trump and whatever else. The conservatives have been furious at our federal government for a long time and ready to take action.
That's
And
tangential.
so you guys
The
are sitting
question
here
is about-
crying. You
it's
guys are sitting
tangential.
here. You
No,
guys are
first of all,
sitting
no,
here.
you cheer on the
You guys
corruption.
are here.
It's
You guys
tangential,
are
you cheer
here.
on.
You guys.
Okay, well, hold on.
Here.
Stream Rift,
Okay.
if you don't think it's corruption, why? Explain.
So I came here
crypto
to this
stuff, yeah.
debate to take a shot at the DNC against Trump. The premise that Trump could even possibly, even if he had, let's say he did your number, 3 billion. In fact, let's say he did 10 billion in corruption. It pales in comparison against what the DNC has done for the last 4 decades in this country. So if the debate prompt is still the Democrats are more corrupt than Trump, I'm saying I'm going to give a free pass to all of the rank and file Democrats. I'm not going to besmirch their good name in this, the fucking DNC. And against Trump, it doesn't even come close. The whole point,
You're
the call
calling
to
this
action
corrupt.
here,
Trump is
let me
corrupt.
get
Well,
on
well,
10 more
hold on,
seconds,
wait,
10
just
more
wait.
seconds, just 10 more seconds.
Yeah, go ahead.
The whole point is fuck this fighting DNC versus Trump bullshit. If we don't like our government, less than 10% of us vote in primaries.
debate
Actually fucking do something.
I
Okay.
want to talk about the crypto thing
Okay,
later.
before anyone else goes, before
Yeah,
anyone
go
else
ahead.
Super
goes.
chats.
Yes, I do have to make a little money.
Well, I didn't get an answer to my question. I wanted to hear how you don't think that the crypto stuff is corruption. Like, give me your logic how it's not corruption.
That's fair
I'm-
enough. I will suspend super chats until that answer. Well, not
Yeah,
until,
I mean,
because in
I'll
case
tell
you
you
guys
how,
dodge
I
all
think.
the time. But
I'll tell you how. And
Go
I think
ahead,
it's
tell us.
actually real simple. One, but like I don't think it's corruption. One, because first of all, if we're talking about corruption, there's I guess 2 types that I really would like to focus on. There's governmental, and then there's personal, right? And yeah, let's just if I were to grant that the the Trump coin thing was corruption, which I don't. I'm thinking he did it. He really wanted to do it. We've seen crypto be a key piece of his legislation. He's been working on having a like sort of thing where he has all sorts of different crypto as backing. I honestly think that he was hoping, excuse me, it would be a successful coin. Now, if it's not corruption if you put forth something personally that you hope and your people hope will be successful. Now, I don't think it was a rug pull.
Yeah, he's just going to give away the $2 billion that he earned there.
Okay.
It was honest-
Are you shitting me?
It was just on his brand.
Hold on. But even if you grant it as corruption, that's still a personal form. And what I think me and Streamlift are really pushing at is, is that basically we're really worried about the governmental, institutional corruption that is occurring at every level within the Democratic Party.
Sure.
That
Are
means-
you okay
to
with
narrow in on this?
Are you okay
Go
with
ahead,
the personal
Dev.
form then?
After super
Like-
chats. Dev,
no,
I'll
Dev,
answer any
ask your
question you
question.
want.
Ask
after.
your question, Dev. Yeah.
Yeah, it
No,
just
I
sounds
did
like
this one.
are you okay with the personal form of corruption then?
Well, not really, but if it's not coming out of my tax dollars, then it's not really what I'm.
Wait, it
gonna vote on.
absolutely is.
It's different when the weight of the
There's
state
no such thing
of
as a
gov-
free lunch.
It's
Wait,
it's
No,
are
not-
you-
with the
yeah,
weight
I
of
wanna-
the state is backed
Yeah.
by it. Men with
Yeah.
guns can come in and force
it-
it.
it
It's
is
very
one thing
different.
if hold on. It's one thing if I'm a dumbass and I fucking get like scammed by I don't know the Nigerian prince, right? Or if I'm a dumbass and someone scams me and or my grandma out of like her life savings because she thought she was talking to I don't know Heath Ledger back from the dead.
This
I
is
don't know, right?
exactly
But
like that.
That's
But
one.
can I explain
That's one
why?
thing. That's one thing. It's different when the government is forcing me to do it at an institutional level to pay for the.
So you are paying for it. Corruption. This is why I think people like Ossoff are so based on it. Corruption is something that you have to pay for. Trump is using leverage that belongs in trust to the American people and is using it to pad his bank account, right? And so you just gave an account for these crypto deals. Like, what public
Isn't there trust
interest
in his bank
is
account?
served? What public interest is served by him making out like a bandit with a deal with the United Arab Emirates? What public interest is
You didn't have
served
to pay for the
with
plane.
him? With
That was pretty
him,
nice.
that's different. That's Qatar, different countries.
Okay,
United Arab
yeah.
Emirates and Qatar. Okay, so So the first one I said was United Arab Emirates. What public interest is served by him? Okay, let's say we need a new Air Force One. We need to be upgraded. What public interest is served by doing that, spending all that money to upgrade it, and then get that quote unquote gift from Qatar, and then letting it be used for his personal usage in the presidential library? There's no public interest there. It's just to his own benefit, and
Hold on.
it
President
costs you
has to
money.
Hold on,
Respond
every
and then
person has
super
to do that.
chats.
Yeah,
one
sorry,
response, one
we'll
super.
respond.
Like, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Yeah.
that's dumb. The president, even on any personal duty, if they want to go see their alma mater has a alumni meeting, he has to take Air Force One or Marine One or be like otherwise transported. This is like something they talk about with Air Force One being replaced all the time. So that gift actually saved us money in the long run because we didn't have to get the plane.
Okay.
I'll let you do super chat.
Yeah,
but
let's
it's
get
so
to
naive. It's crazy.
some of this money. Okay. Speaking of corruption money, super chats are not corrupt. They are free range. Okay. Homegrown, and there is no corruption in super chats. Lawson Harrison for $5 says, "Durr, what about Hillary's emails, durr?" Grassroots Hegemon for $5. If you say Curtis Yarvin 3 times in the mirror, Dev will appear. I don't know if that's true. $10 from Tristan Thomas. Dinner's going to be great. Pisco is cooking. Thank you for that, $10. $20 from Susie Maggs, because I was late. Well, thank you for the $20. $20 more from Susie Maggs, because I was late again. Did you mean to see that twice? Thank you for the additional 20. 10 pounds from 4NEU. If we're going to start using alleged, then allegations have been made that Trump killed one of his underage rape victims' babies. If you want to start using alleged, then you are fucked.
Yeah. So when
That
I
was-
mentioned
that was-
That was
Never
Pisco's
mind.
opening. That was the standard Pisco brought.
When I
this
said
debate.
as alleged,
In your fucking opening,
I'm-
you said
when I,
alleged.
I know what I
You
said.
opened it.
I know exactly, and I don't step away from it in the slightest. So first
Alex
of all,
Jones alleged that they're vampires. Do you agree
so
that they're
to
all
respond
vampires?
to respond to what you're
Yes or
saying,
no?
and this kind of
Yeah, answer
absurd
the
take
question.
on alleged, which means like I guess right now if I say Trump destroyed an entire galaxy that we don't know about, I guess Trump is worse, right? Like that's not what I was
So
talking about. When I
powerful.
said as alleged, I mean the House of Representatives under the control of the Republicans making formal allegations in their impeachment inquiry and in the report that they released. Those are the allegations that I'm saying are pertinent, not just anything a crazy person fucking says. But you guys want to play these word games and act like there's anything inconsistent.
We're the
All
ones
you
playing
do
them.
is word games.
We're the
Okay,
ones playing
okay,
them.
okay,
Live the
great.
word
It was a
game.
$10. It was $10. Let's not give him a $50 answer.
10
Okay.
pounds even.
$20 from Anana's Spy. Pisco, please run down the differences between financial disclosures between MAGA SCOTUS justices and the liberal ones. Thomas, Allison, and I'm assuming he means Alito's. Thomas, Alito's, and Robert's corruption should be on the table too. Be brief with this, Pisco. But
yeah, I'm actually not super convinced that I've seen at least sufficient evidence by my mind to show that there's been corruption in terms of what Thomas received, Alito and others. And so, yes, the lack of disclosure is very troubling, and they do preside over some cases involving some of these repeat litigators. But I haven't been seen enough to demonstrate that that's like why they took any particular official action or to lead to an inference in that direction. That said, I haven't looked that hard into that. I've been focused more on Trump. And so I'm open to further investigations. One of the actual worst parts about the Trump administration is that we're not getting investigations into the corruption that's going on when we did have that in the first Trump term, at least with the Mueller investigation. And then obviously with Hillary Clinton and Obama, there were internal investigations. He's fired all the IGs. And so we're not even getting that. And so we should get that for the justices, and we should get that for the current administration.
$5 from Firearms and Fitness. Just got here, but you're either the dumbest person on earth or a liar if you think Trump isn't the most corrupt president we have ever had.
Well, Ulysses S. Grant's the most corrupt ever, but that's the over there.
No, not even close. I mean, Ulysses S. Grant, even as okay, I'll stop saying even as alleged, but yeah, he had corrupt people in his administration. It's not even close to this shit. This shit is comical. Even your own side, even people who support, even Ben Shapiro acknowledges this shit. Even you
Ben
guys.
Shapiro's
really
an Israeli dude. That does not have American interests at heart.
Nick Fuentes says this is the most
Nick
corrupt.
Fuentes is a Democrat.
Okay, put it aside. Then
Okay,
Ann Coulter,
Fuentes is
she's
a
not
better
Democrat.
source than
Richard
Shapiro.
Spencer's
I'll give
also
you
a
that one.
Democrat.
Fuentes, so I watch America First. Fuentes says he wants to see Democrats take in power and to do these investigations because they'll make him hurt because his administration has been historically corrupt. That's Fuentes.
Yeah, he's also allegedly funded by the SPLC, but yeah.
Ann Coulter said that this is the most corrupt administration in the history of the United States. She's not a Democrat. Megyn Kelly said the same thing. I mean, it's
Wait, do you think
comically corrupt.
Well, the SPLC funded the guy who the organizer, the right rally, the one we heard.
Yes.
The very fine people like they
It's
funded.
so hilarious.
A Democrat ran organization.
we got it.
Super chats.
We're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it.
I can address
There'll be
that
more
indictment,
super
but
chats that you guys
please.
can yap on. I promise. $5 from Pondering Politics. Gibbs said he didn't want to cite alleged fraud, but is now citing alleged fraud. charges are not convictions.
Also true.
Also,
on the question of the SPLC, that one is even as alleged there, right? I'll say it again. There, it's that they were paying people to be like insider informants. And that is not. And by the way, that's the Southern Poverty Law Center. That's not.
Yeah, and they also funded recruitment. That's also alleged. They funded buying of the road, funding the materials to burn crosses,
I believe
and they funded the guy $275K.
So
I'll be honest with you. This is also in addition. While one of the funders and organizers was fucking a leader.
Remember, it's a $5 super chat. $5 answers, please.
Wait, but I just want to finish the sentence. So I think the SPLC indictment is evidence of further corruption of the Trump administration. But even if you believe that this indictment was based and all that stuff, all it would show is that a private organization did a private crime. That's not corruption. Criminality
like
by itself is not corruption.
It's a private organization that labeled every conservative commentator a person in a hate group. They're also the one, by the way, if you voted for or talked about Plantner, they're also the ones that said, and this is when Dems go, oh, he didn't know it was a Nazi tattoo. They're the ones that said,
hold on.
They're the ones who said that the U.S. military is a bed for white supremacy.
So Trump was convicted of fraud. He's corrupt, right? So Trump was convicted of fraud. He's corrupt, right? So Trump was convicted of fraud. He's corrupt.
Or you have an organization that's in bed with Nazis. It seems like you like Nazis. I don't know.
Oh. Pisco, are you there?
He froze.
Pisco, hello, Pisco.
His internet.
Hello.
Yeah, you.
Welcome back.
You cut out.
Okay. Am I better now? I dropped some frames.
You are better now. Okay, $5 from Pondering Politics. Also, for your info, Trump has pardoned fraudsters, some healthcare, and wiped out at least $2 billion in victim compensation with those pardons.
100% true. 100% true. And we have evidence that they're talking about healthcare fraud. They're literally getting lobbyists in bed with Laura Loomer. I don't know if that's figurative or literal, but I assume figurative and metaphorical, to get these fraudsters, these convicted fraudsters. And if you're a Groyper, you should pay special attention to them because they're all part of like pro-Israel people. I'm not alleging that, but I'm saying
you're funded by the SPLC.
If you're a Groyper, you should pay extra consideration to this. Trump did that and wiped out all sorts, millions of dollars of compensation to like employ like nurses and to these old care facilities. And so you don't give a fuck about that corruption. You don't give a fuck about that fraud.
No, you're just making shit talking out of your ass because it's easier for you to just spew out 15 to 20 things and have the other person have to.
What about what I just said is untrue? Name one thing I said that's untrue.
Why do you feel the need to always
hold on,
the burden
Gibbs,
on
stop.
the other side?
Let Rift go. Rift, repeat yourself.
Yeah, like Pisco. So you sit here, you say a bunch of shit, then you sneak in your version of the facts, then you make some arguments and do a monologue where you've got a nice little short story where no sensible person can engage with a single fucking thing you said. I'll give you one very clean thing. Give you one very clean one, and you're never going to stop interrupting, and I get that. But I do think maybe you could get better. So one example is I care about all of the fraud and all of the corruption. It's not there's not a lack of consistency on that. My entire premise. So you ranted for 5, 10, 20 minutes, whatever your opening was. And I had a concise claim. And I essentially said, even if everything you guys want to say tonight about Trump and his entire administration is true, it pales in comparison to 4 decades of machinery. And you never engage with that because you can't. That's a much bigger claim. And you can't
I'm happy to do it. No, we did it.
Then why did you do it for the last hour?
So I'm happy. We started on Democrats. We started on Democrat corruption, and you said, well, this Democrat machine. The essence of what you were saying was that this Democrat machine is ignoring the will of their voters when it comes to voter ID, when it comes to immigration, and all these issues.
One of my several pillars.
That pillar is just nonsense. It has nothing to do with corruption. It could be the case that the Democrats are ignoring the will of the voters and it not be corruption. There's nothing inconsistent about those things.
No, hold on. Pause. How can it not be consistent?
Yeah. So
how can it be consistent that they will not act in the interest of their voters and they're not corrupt?
Yeah, not following the interests of your voters.
That you represent, not representing.
So
presenting them,
analytically, the definition of corruption just is not listening to your voters.
There's a sanctuary city.
Let him finish.
So you accuse
briefly, and then I have more super chats. I don't know why you guys.
You're trying to say this pales in comparison to the decades of the DNC bullshit. First of all, you're just misattributing who's responsible. The DNC isn't like controlling all of these politicians. The politicians themselves are the ones making these kinds of decisions. The DNC has less power than that to just control all the politicians in the world.
That's a bullshit claim. Of course, they all vote together. Republicans break rank far more often. They're more likely to actually think.
I'm not saying they don't organize. The DNC isn't the organizing body there.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I do gotta. We do gotta move on. We do gotta move on.
Wait. We have to move on. Let them do super chats.
Yes, I gotta make more money. Okay. $5. Look, the next super chat is going to be about the same topic, and you guys can continue. I promise, okay? $5 from Stormwolf. Why do red states have higher welfare and fraud than blue states? $5 from Annan's One Spy. Texas, Ken Paxton rings a bell. Gizmo Snoopy for $5. Are WIC panels 3 strikes and you're out? After the US aid and this debate, only one more Gibbs nightmare before we get better and more honest guests? That's not how that works. And then $10 from Pondering Politics. MAGA Republican Senator Rick Scott resigned as Columbia HCA CEO after the company pled guilty to the biggest healthcare fraud in U.S. history, $1.7 billion. Okay, now you guys can talk.
Good. And
There's more.
That's actually a great
example.
That's actually a great example. That's actually a great example, Pondering. And the wonderful thing about that is that shows it was a personal person doing it, and then he was doing this and using his power as a Republican to get in there on these boards. And then guess what? When it was corruption, he got fired and he was out. That's much different than what Streamlift and I are alleging. And this is why we keep bringing up saying sanctuary cities and whatnot. Sanctuary cities are predominantly, even when they're in Republican-held states, or in predominantly held Democrat districts for like 90% of the time, 95% of the time. We want to look over the map. Y'all can check that and really argue about the percentage ratio. But I think we can all agree sanctuary cities are predominantly in Democrat-held areas. And when we look at this is the exact kind of corruption we're talking about. You bring in illegals, you incentivize them to come, you give them some sort of ID.
Can we pause right there?
This is hold on.
Let's address that.
Yeah, this is institutionalized.
Let him
corruption.
do multiple points. Pisco, you dropped 10 and he's made 3.
I'm trying to follow you guys because you guys don't want to defend the Trump corruption. You just want to go on the offense. And I have no problem whatsoever swiping away your bullshit. And so you just said sanctuary cities are corruption, correct? Did you say that?
Yeah,
as he was saying.
So what is it about the existence of sanctuary cities, someone who supports sanctuary cities, who says we should not comply with what ICE and DHS are doing, that entails corruption?
Okay, great question.
Yeah, it's real simple. They're ignoring federal law in regards to immigration in order to supplement their voters.
No, that's not true. No.
Because
federal law.
Let me answer. Let's answer it. So when the Biden admin drops 4,000 immigrants into a city with 2,000, the city that was there has no voting power anymore. They're already outnumbered. And as soon as that new
topic, Stream Riffs, I know that you're not following, but
you don't like voter fraud? You don't like voter?
No.
What part of a sanctuary?
So
Jesus Christ, dude.
So you guys can't stay on one.
You dress yourself in the morning.
The first claim was sanctuary cities.
The claim you've been making the whole time.
So the first claim you said was sanctuary cities are corruption. And do you want me to address that claim or not?
You don't like the answer. I think you're smart enough to understand it.
It speaks to the overall
when I start talking about sanctuary cities, you move on to a different policy. This allegation that Biden is dropping off immigrants in particular places.
Because unlike what you want to do, Pisco, these are all connected issues. It's not like I can go. Listen, what you're doing is very dishonest. Where you go, it's one policy.
It's not
we can only talk about that policy.
About
when these are interconnected webs. Yeah, but it is dishonest when you want. Listen, anybody can look at one thing and be like, in and of itself, that one thing is not this. But whenever you combine them and you layer, it's like Jenga. If I just go in there and I grab all the ones from the bottom,
so are you conceding that sanctuary cities are not innately corrupt? Are you conceding that?
I would argue they are innately corrupt. Yeah, they are innately corrupt.
I'm going to address that, right? So can we address that, or are you going to move on?
I do want to know why they're inherently corrupt. I am curious.
So, Dev, under American law, which you've said you're not familiar with, and I appreciate that, maybe you'll be able to help us all make some progress here and break some bread. So if you got a city with 100,000 people in it, and it becomes a sanctuary city, and they let 10,000 people in and let them vote, and it skews the policies towards the people who let the immigrants in, do you think that that's election interference, fraud, corruption of any kind?
I need more information to make that determination.
Okay, I mean, but like if they've, you can see why some people might. Right, like
you're asking
if
a
you
question.
let 10,000 people in,
why it's corrupt.
I'm laying a foundation.
Cities.
I'm laying a foundation, counselor.
So we want to know why sanctuary city policies are corrupt.
I'll walk you through it. I got you.
Some view into to give some view into what these sanctuary policies entail, and as has been held by federal law, that there's no commandeering of state officials and state apparatuses of enforcement. That is a principle that's been expounded by the Supreme Court.
Yes, a question kept ranting.
So not only is it no, I'm gonna explain exactly that these sanctuary policies have been approved by Supreme Court, now existing Supreme Court precedent. Now the question for you guys is, why is refusing to cooperate with DHS, as has been approved by the Supreme Court of the United States, why is that corruption? Answer it.
Oh, real simple. How about if someone sneaks a bomb through because they didn't work
my
with
God.
DHS and it blows up? Is that corruption? Yeah, absolutely. That would be corruption. Like when you're sitting here arguing this, the idea that the people that
No,
are
no, hold on.
bombs
How
are
is that
corrupt?
corruption? Hold on.
Okay, so
Why is someone
it's
planting
real
a
simple.
bomb?
Hold on. Let's
Isn't that just
let's
criminality?
strip it to the. Let's hold on, please. Let's
The
strip
bomb
it to
itself is
the
not the
principle
corruption,
behind
but
it.
the people allowing it to go behind it.
If
That's
a
the
community-
You
corruption.
can show that.
If a
You can show
community,
that.
if a community votes and says, "Hey, we don't agree with this federal law, so we don't want any of our local officials to cooperate with federal authorities in enforcing
Okay.
that law," is that corruption?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. There's a whole fucking civil war fought over states' rights and federalism, and guess what? Federal law supersedes local law, doesn't it?
Well, I'm gonna
So
disagree
federal-
slightly with
when
my
there's a
partner here.
conflict-
Pisco,
so
let
when-
me. Since I'm
wait.
cutting him off, you should let me. So here's the deal. When we have federal law that says these are the rules, and states have their own laws, there's not a dispute that it's illegal for an immigrant to vote in a federal election. But when it is corrupt, when the entire state of California makes it easy for immigrants and incentivizes them coming, and then we have en masse illegal voters voting in federal
And-
elections,
And
that
illegal
is
candidates.
definitionally
about
that is
voting. We're talking
definitionally
about
corruption.
sanctuary cities.
Yeah, we
What
even
about
Right,
have
and
examples
the-
of illegal immigrants being like
It's the vehicle for
superintendents.
it.
Okay,
That's
hold
something we
on,
have.
guys. Hold on.
No,
Okay,
no,
Dev,
low-level officials.
say
yeah,
this, Dave.
I think
Dave,
I know.
Dev, say this.
I think I know what you're trying to say. You're saying that there's a city, it becomes a sanctuary city. The Democrat politicians who run that city incentivize bringing in a whole bunch of illegal immigrants. They give them voting ID. They allow them to vote illegally. And then suddenly what ends up happening is these Democrats, they keep getting re-voted in by the illegals they brought in. And you're claiming that's corrupt, right? That's your argument?
Correct. They're
Absolutely.
importing
Another example.
voters.
That's just
Okay.
one type of corruption that stems
Well,
from
just
it.
wait.
Like,
Just,
the
let's talk about
superintendents
this.
are
Yeah,
Let's talk
let
about
them
this
go.
one then. Let's talk about this one. So I understand your point of view. Where is this actually happening?
The entire state of California and Minnesota, these are a very common leftist
Is
approach. It's actually
Okay,
gotten to
proof
the
of
point
this?
where
Can you-
literally,
can you
if I may
post
just
proof?
finish 10 more
Oakland
seconds,
and
just
San
10 more
Francisco.
seconds. Yeah, literally,
So
we
your
have
claim is
illegal
the entire
immigrants.
state
we
of
literally
Let
have-
Rev finish, please. And
With
I
literally-
don't know why people look. I need to stop reading super chats on my own before I actually read them. But if you're gonna lie about what I'm doing, then you can leave. I don't know what you're trying to say. If we're gonna just lie about what I'm doing, I'm gonna lie about what you're doing, and you're not gonna like the lies I make. But anyway, go ahead.
Who said what?
Stream
I
riff.
didn't
Stream
say
riff.
anything.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, just the for example, we've got actual illegal immigrants being elected to offices as well. So it's not even just we have someone who may or may not have
You have an
voted for
example?
the person they liked. Gibbs, would you say there's one in Oakland and one in?
Yeah, the Oakland, San Francisco are both examples of this. But
Who was the illegal immigrant elected to office?
Oh, that one's Iowa. I have that one right here. You want that one? That one is right here. Is give me 2 seconds. Iowa superintendent, illegal super.
And while he's looking that up, the other thing is that the DNC and its
Andre
will
Roberts,
push
and not only
against-
that, he voted in 2 elections that we know of. So we have not only do we have an illegal voting, we have an illegal that was elected to superintendent of a school district or appointed. One of the 2, I'm not sure who's elected, but some of them are. Some are appointed, and this is a low-level managerial position for the Democratic Party, or any really party if you get there. And this is what I keep talking about with streaming. It's so bad that it's all the way entrenched all the way out through the low level to the top. You know, there's that movie, The Jungle Book, and there's a scene where he talks to the governor, and the governor's like, "I have friends in high places." The guy that's throwing the coup says, "I have friends in low places." This is what they're doing. They have the lower level people in place, and this Iowa superintendent is a great example of this. Someone that's voted, has a position of power, and influences policy. That's corruption at every level.
And I ran
Wait,
for
so
state
Iowa-
senate.
so the
Let me
question
finish.
is
Let me finish.
Iowa
Just one more
so
sentence.
the question is Iowa a sanctuary city? That's the question.
Oh, that is not what I just said. You just
So
asked.
I ran for
the-
public
I'm
office.
I'm asking the question: is Iowa a sanctuary city or
Well,
not?
Iowa's
It's not a city, so
sanctuary,
no,
it's
it's
a
a
city. It's a
fucking
state.
state. Okay, so
good
Iowa-
God,
So
bro.
it's
answered.
fair to-
Now
so-
you're done. Now you're done. You asked a question. It got answered. I ran for public office, and what happens is a lot of times in the conservative side, the Republican Party, and on the Democratic side, federal funding will come to help do campaigns. And so for someone looking to get into a lower level office, what they'll do is they'll do co-branding, and they'll say, I'll go knock a bunch of doors, I'll co-brand with my local brand, and I'm going to support fill in the blank. And so what ends up happening is the DNC funnels cash to all districts, which we would expect. And then what ends up happening is you could have some candidate who's poorly vetted or not vetted at all take a couple of bucks. Like, for example, in Nevada, they were arguing on abortion. They were talking about bodily autonomy. That was a big talking point. So if you were a candidate and you would go out and talk that point, they'd literally give you money for postcards. So you could have someone say, okay, I'll say that. And also long live
I'm not gonna get
Somalia or
distracted.
whatever
Okay,
else.
so let's
And
go to
then
Des
you
Moines.
can get money for this and get support.
So we're addressing first.
So funding illegal
principally,
immigrants is corruption.
So
we give
we're
that.
addressing.
Would you go that far, Pisco? Yes or no? Yes or no? Funding illegal immigrant campaigns.
Wait, I'll answer your
Yes
question.
or
And then
no?
we'll go to what I'm saying. So what's your question? Repeat your question.
Yeah.
Is funding
The
illegal
DNC
immigrants
funding
corruption?
illegal
Yes or
immigrant
no? That's what he
campaigns.
asked.
Yeah.
Wait,
Is funding the campaign.
No, he just said campaign. So no, say that one more time.
Funding the campaign of an illegal immigrant is corruption.
Not necessarily. No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Is the answer. That it is possible to.
I don't get no, dude.
Yeah, no,
I hear you.
So,
we don't agree.
So
It's fine. You have something else you're going to say.
I'll give you some examples. So I'll give you some examples. So I'll give you some examples, and then I'll get to what I want to talk about. So Streamriff just said it's de facto corrupt to fund an illegal immigrants campaign for office. No, it's not. If someone is a private citizen and using no official power and is just funding somebody because they want to support their candidate, that's not corruption. If someone doesn't know, someone who is an official, someone who has some sort of input into enforcement agencies, if they don't know that the person's illegal,
I was talking about the DNC. Just to be clear,
so the question,
if the DNC themselves, since that's what we're talking about, the DNC
that would depend on whether or not
that
would depend on whether the DNC was aware and had the right scienter and intent. So I answered your question, and you got obliterated. So now addressing. So now addressing. These are the claims that you brought. You raised sanctuary cities.
Hold on, Pisco.
You're going to debunk them now. You're not going to.
Hold on. Before you move on, the claim you just said, oh, are those people corrupt? No, you're right. Those people are corrupt. Those people are victims of corruption. The whole campaign is a fraudulent campaign. So your answer is, yeah, you're right. They're not.
Go drink another vodka soda.
Go drink another vodka soda. You're not use one. You might be able to be coherent.
Go drink another vodka soda.
Maybe you should go get one.
The big boys are talking now. Go drink another vodka soda.
I do actually have a response to give.
Okay. We actually have to address something. We actually have to address something. Dev, you had a response to some of these things?
Yes. No. Do not save them. Wait. Do not save them. Do not save them. Wait. Do not save them. So first of all, the question was asked. So the question was asked. The question was asked. The question was
stop.
The question.
Oh my God.
So he complained I didn't answer the question. So he complained. So I'm going to finish if it kills me. He complained that before I asked my question, after he derailed, that I wouldn't answer. So I answered the question. The question was, is funding someone? So the question was as follows: is funding someone who happens to be an illegal immigrant corrupt? I said no, not necessarily. That answer was true, and that answer was accurate. And I gave an example of you would acknowledge that notwithstanding that you're funding an illegal immigrant.
Those are victims.
But I answered the question accurately and
I feel like a
honestly.
victim
now we're
right
gonna
now.
go. Now
what we're gonna do. You're wrong.
So now what we're gonna do. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at your claim. Your claim was sanctuary cities are corruption havens, and your evidence of that is, well, look, they elected an illegal immigrant, and then you're like, wait, where did they do that? And then they said, oh, it happened in Iowa. And then I was like, well, is Iowa a sanctuary city? Like, no. And then I looked into it.
And I said that.
Wait a second. Let me finish it. You're not. Wait, no. He's not getting away from this.
You're lying. You're lying once again.
This is his example.
I said it wasn't a sanctuary city.
This is his example. We're gonna go through it. So you get debunked. This is MAGA. This is MAGA.
I didn't finish
through.
Pisco.
So this is exactly the. No, let me finish my fucking thought. This is exactly what we're getting. They bring up their own example. They bring up their own example of sanctuary cities, and they say sanctuary cities allow for all of these candidates who are illegals to go to office. They brought up an example. Gibbs brought up an example in Iowa,
and I said it was a sanctuary city.
And in Iowa. It is not. It not only is it not the case that it's a sanctuary city. It is against the law. It is against state law in Iowa to have a sanctuary jurisdiction. So I'm going to ask Gibbs.
Yeah,
that it isn't true, right? That your example is furthering your point, correct?
I literally said, if you had listened, clearly you didn't. I was like, and I'll give you an example of a non-sanctuary city. And then I gave the Iowa superintendent who was illegal at voting in local elections.
Sanctuary cities. That's what you were asked about, not non-sanctuary cities. Because that's your example, right?
Both to be true.
You were asked about sanctuary cities, not non-sanctuary cities.
Look, Gibbs, just a simple thing. Just a real simple thing. Do you have an example from a sanctuary city?
Caught. Absolutely defeated.
Sure. You got. I mean, really. Okay, sure. Any election that the legal alien voted in.
Did we ask for non-sanctuary cities, or did we ask for sanctuary city
hold
analysis?
on. We asked you. The topic once again is fraud, and which one's worse, basically, how I understand it.
It's about corruption, actually.
What's a corruption?
Hey, why no? It's about corruption.
Corruption, fraud. Hey, listen. As crazy as I could still do this hammered, and I would still be more coherent and more correct than you ever would be. Just like you got caught here when you tried to pass
hammered and you're incoherent.
What is the example? Hold on, Gibbs. What is the example from the sanctuary cities of an illegal immigrant?
Sure, I will adjust that. But any
I just want to answer my question, buddy.
I'll give you an example. Any election that has been held where legal citizens are illegal or got the vote, that is a fraudulent election, in my opinion. And those all go.
Which elections were those?
Hold on. Back to what you just said.
You just said election fraudulent. Was Trump's election fraudulent? Yes or no? Was Trump's election in 2016 and 2024 fraudulent?
Those are different things. Once again,
wait a second. Did illegal immigrants vote in 2024 and 2016? Yes or no?
Yes.
Those are fraudulent votes. They shouldn't be counted.
You just said if an illegal immigrant votes, it's a fraudulent election. You just said that, right?
There's a difference between a federal election where that's illegal for them to vote and then they get caught, and a local election where they're encouraged by the Democratic Party to do so.
How is legal conduct corrupt?
Well, how is this legal?
Stop. Hold on, stop. All of you, stop. All of you, stop. Okay. I don't understand in a fundamental level, if a locality wants to enable any voter, illegal or illegal, to vote in their local election, how that is corruption, because the local citizens have decided to do this. Why is that corrupt? You could say it's wrong. You could say it shouldn't be done, and you would disagree with it. But walk me through, please, how that is corruption. That's all I want to know.
Do you have people now voted in where legal citizens can vote? Do you have people that are voted in that are going to implement policy?
Why are you asking questions? Why don't you explain?
Obviously.
Why are you asking
obviously
questions? Because how normal people... Pisco, remember all the times you get lost? Give just a sec. Pisco, you know how you get lost? The reason why you get lost is because you don't let people ask questions to check in along the way. So if you say, we agree on this, yes. Would you agree on that? No. That's how normal people talk.
You're going to pass out how drunk you are.
I appreciate your conversation. I am too.
Okay, you asked me a question. Will someone getting elected make a policy? Yes, that's obviously.
I do want to rebuttal this real quick. This drunk claim that keeps occurring.
I don't care about the drunk claim. I don't.
You admitted it. You said you were plastered.
I once again never said that.
He said he could beat you if he was plastered. That's what
I could beat you. Here's what the best part about this is. Once again, I've already laid out, and Streamers laid out how this is fraud on multiple levels.
No, you have that. That's the thing. That's why I asked, how is this corruption?
You have to save him. I got you. Hold on, let me help you out there, so you can stop saving Pisco. And then
I'm not saving Pisco. I'm trying to understand a fundamental pillar of your argument.
It's real. Okay, cool. It's real simple. Once again, this is why I gave the example in the town. If I started importing illegal immigrants and we started voting, these people are never going to get a say. Now, what's going to happen next is we're going to have people putting policy in there that's going to benefit me exclusively and benefit the people I have under my payroll, i.e. the legal immigrants, right? Because guess what? I can pay them as a ranch owner, and that's not illegal. Guess what? So then once again, I turn around. This isn't corruption at that point by the legal standards, right? But it is corruption when we start looking at the overall, because I'm impacting people not only in my county, I'm impacting people Texas-wide because of policy that goes against what federal mandate is, which is federal mandate. You need to be.
You don't like the policy, therefore corruption. That's your analysis.
So once again, when we talk about, hold on, let me finish though. Once we get what we just talked about, what Pisco did is so dishonest. What Pisco's done this whole time is very dishonest. And so take one thing out of context, be like, oh, well, the person donating to said campaign, that is not corruption. That is not corruption. Right? I agree. That is not corruption. That would be victim. They would be the victim of the fraudulent campaign where someone who is illegal has ran for office, like the Iowa example. And that's
so Gibbs, like 20 minutes ago, I asked for evidence of sanctuary cities allowing illegals to vote in order to corruptly entrench Democrats into power. I haven't heard an example of that yet.
I gave you Oakland and San Francisco both allow illegal immigrants to vote, and both of those have people, I would argue, been put in power because of illegal immigrants voting or legal immigrants voting.
Do you have names of candidates that have been put into power in these places?
Any candidate in those towns that are Democrat, like because of these policies.
Oakland and San Francisco. Okay, that's the claim.
No, but the question is more fundamental than what Wick asked. Wick asked a fundamental question, which is, let's even grant it. Many of these jurisdictions require you to be a green card holder, but let's just put it aside. Let's say that a jurisdiction grants and the citizens come and say, we actually want these people to be part of electing local superintendents or whatever. We think they're part of the community. How is that corruption? That was the question that Wick asked.
Yeah,
it happens.
A very clean answer is the fact that it manipulates the amount of congressional representation that they get and affects the amount of votes that California
I'm talking about the lower level too.
Hold on. Just as a matter of fact, the allowing them to vote or not allowing them to vote will not change the amount of representation. That's both based on the census, and the census does not consider whether you are voting or not.
Right? Well, it could affect the state legislature. If you're voting at local state level, you could affect state policy, which is still millions of people. Like that is a
Yeah, but real quick, if every province that had, if every province that had a sanctuary city that got 1 million Americans got an extra 20% in their provincial budget, would you consider that corruption?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Depends on the purpose.
Yeah. So if let's say there's
how it's implemented, and it depends on how it's implemented. But again, you're asking more questions. You're not explaining. You're asking more questions.
I'm interrogating the thought. We talked about this before.
I'm just trying to figure out how it's corruption. That's all. That's all I'm doing. I do need to get to more super chats soon, but I'm trying to.
The Democrats' best tactic is to plead ignorance and not know what we're talking about when obvious things.
Hold on. No, it's not. That's the problem. It's not obvious to me, and that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. No, I think I was making progress with Dev, to be honest. I've been very pleasantly surprised about how well this.
Dev is
Dev, you've got
you at every moment.
however many provinces you have up there.
I don't know if he's crushing me, but
we have
10
provinces and 3 territories.
Okay, great. So is that okay? So of those 13, if you get an extra 1 million Americans to come, they're illegal. But if you get them to come anyway, your province gets double the budget. So all of your taxes are cut in half, benefits are doubled. So the states have that, the provinces and territories have that incentive. Would you think it would be fraudulent or corrupt for one of the parties to make a sanctuary city for Americans to try to get them in so that way they could get the votes and also help secure the control over that budget?
If it turns out that all of these illegal immigrants overwhelmingly vote for one party over another, yes, that can be corruption. The issue is that I don't see evidence of this happening in the States. Well,
and that's fair, and that's all right. I appreciate you engaging with the
you understand that's why they're asking for examples, right?
Everyone has been asking for evidence this whole fucking time, so don't act like, oh, we finally got to it.
No, let Riff respond to that, please. Let Riff respond to that. You understand that this is why Dev and me and Pisco have been asking for examples, correct?
Right. So the premise here is that there's an unreasonable burden Pisco likes to throw. He likes to throw a ton of questions, ask for far more proof than he'll offer, and come with no good faith. What Dev just did right here in real time was I said, okay, well, let's say we're not looking at the specifics before we go hunting for specifics, especially because it makes it easier to move the goalpost if you don't button it down. Let's agree. And I gave a very on the nose example. I haven't proved anything. But in application, what we know is California, for example, has sanctuary cities. Demonstrably. There's no question about that. Arguably, it's a sanctuary state. I don't know. And I got to believe it's an incentive for someone to come if they're going to be protected and they're going to get benefits. So there seems to be an actual act of corruption if you're trying to incentivize illegal behavior using government funds and privileges.
What is the evidence of that is what you're being asked for.
I mean, it's pretty clear that whenever everybody asks, I mean, this is a selling point from the libs that I hear all the time, is that all these people just want to come to America for a better life. And if one of those ways they have a better life is they can come here legally and get incentives like government welfare, or they can get government driver's licenses, they can get into programs like, I don't know, trucking programs. We've seen that be on the news recently. Some have been legal, some have not. I mean, these are all examples of incentives. Now, I don't know about you, but hold on. I've done sales for my whole life. Now, I've done sales my whole life. Right. And so I guess this is anecdotal, but part of the way you get a sale is you hit them with all your incentives. And this is the same thing here is they're selling this to these people. Now, I know you're a lawyer, but it seems to me like you should have gone back to community college and took a logic class because this is an A to B to C kind of thing right here. And I don't know why you're exactly confused about, if I give an incentive, if I have an incentive and I tell people they can do it.
Moment or something. I don't know what to say about it.
Well,
so like
that's a good one.
This has been a thorough. So we've tried now numerous times to engage your immigration arguments in good faith. You have zero evidence.
No, I'm going to nail it right here. I'm going to nail it right here.
Other than
the DNC literally divided administration told
Nobody's
the state
assuming.
of Virginia they cannot take illegal immigrants off the voter rolls. This happened in more than one state. So when
So
literally
you are
the weight of the state is
mischaracterizing.
being used
You are
to prevent the
mischaracterizing those
purge
court
of
cases.
illegal voters,
You
that
are
seems like corruption to
mischaracterizing.
me.
So there's federal law that prohibits certain clearing of voter rolls, and that is as a matter of federal
Yeah,
law
you're
that states
defending
are
it right
bound
now.
to.
You're defending the
That
right of the
states
illegal
that
immigrants and dead
states.
voters
No,
to be able to
that
So
vote.
let
is a
Very
Pisco
decision.
finish.
benevolent
Let
of you.
Pisco
That
finish.
is a decision. What you again, as you guys
That's
manipulate, twist, and outright lie,
institutionalized-
what you're
institutionalized
referencing is a slew of challenges
Thank
where the courts upheld the statutory commandment of Congress to limit when you can purge voter rolls. And you're saying that states being in compliance with binding law on elections is evidence of corruption. It is laughable. You have had the opportunity
Yeah.
now to make your case about
proven
Democratic.
our
You
point
had
for
your
us right there,
opportunity
yeah.
now to make the case for Democratic corruption. You wasted all your time on these
Institutionalized corruption. Thank you.
bullshit policy arguments that are not corruption. So why don't you defend the
they are
actual
corruption.
corruption that we're seeing in the scores of different areas, billions of dollars in the Department of Justice, most specifically. So why don't you defend that? How about the slush fund? Do you support that? Is that corrupt? Yes or no?
No, it's not corrupt. It's a normal executive function. There's an expectation that they're going to have a liability. So,
so
the chief
Trump
executive
being on both
officer.
sides
Let me
of the
answer,
V.
you retarded ape. Why is it so fucking hard for you to let people answer? You sit there and you say, "Oh, well, people can't answer. Oh, they don't answer." So
You just said it wasn't corrupt. Why is it not corrupt?
the chief executive officer of this beautiful country knows there's an outstanding liability. Things like the FBI going after conservatives, people being censored and silenced, people being held without proper charges, all sorts of civil liberty violations. It is the most normal thing in the world to allocate funds for expected litigation losses. This is fucking normal shit,
So what
not
they're trying to
corruption.
tell you right now, what these MAGA dick sucks are trying to tell you right now, is that Trump being on both
Very hostile.
sides of the V, he is the plaintiff in the case, and he also controls the Department of Justice, giving a generalized fund of about 1.6 to $7 billion to be used on the people where he is in charge of where this money gets doled out of. Ultimately, that is not.
And doesn't the
corruption. That
judiciary
him
have
being
to sign off
him
on
being
this?
part-
So
him
don't we
being
literally
part-
still
Okay,
have
let
this-
Pisco finish.
No,
and then you
no.
go, yeah.
So he was.
You're making a
operating
bullshit point.
It was a collusive lawsuit in which he is operating as the plaintiff and the
Bullshit.
defendant, and he's created. Oh, wait, what about that is bullshit?
bullshit
Did he say
point.
there's no factions within the
But-
U.S.
So
government?
hold up. Let me answer
was
this dumb
Trump
man.
the plaintiff
So
in
the
that
dumb
case?
man,
Was
whenever
Trump the-
you're ready,
Was Trump the
whenever
plaintiff
you're
in that
ready,
case? You just said it was false, but I just
whenever
said.
you're
Was
ready,
Trump the plaintiff in that
whenever
case?
you're
Was
ready,
Trump the
said you made a
was Trump the
bullshit
plaintiff in
claim.
that case?
Okay, well,
Was
Trump
you,
made
you've
a
asked.
bullshit
Hold on, Pisco. You've asked him a couple questions. Your first question, is what is bullshit? Answer that
Yeah,
question.
what is the bullshit?
Riff. What is the bullshit?
So Trump did not make the DOJ spy on him before he was even elected as the president. So the fact that he happens to be holding the title of the president right now is at least slightly limited by the fact that when they started violating his rights in some of the most egregious ways possible, including violating the Fourth Amendment, they did that both as a sitting president and as a citizen. That's kind of fucked up.
When did
He
they
didn't make them do that.
When did they
He didn't
violate
make them
Trump's
do
Fourth
that.
Amendment? So first of all, your argument is bullshit because I'm asking
You're
you what
too
about
stupid
the
to know
collusive-
this. What is
so I'm
it?
asking. So I'm asking what the collusive. I'm asking whether or not what aspect of the collusive lawsuit was bullshit. But now let's get more specific. You said
You
Trump's
added
Fourth
collusive.
Amendment. So you said Trump's Fourth Amendment rights were violated. When were they violated?
Starting no later than 2015, counselor.
Wait. What happened? What was the thing that was the violation of
There
Trump's
was
Fourth
a
Amendment rights?
FISA warrant issued on a U.S. citizen, and they did illegal wiretapping. Crossfire
Trump-
Hurricane, the
was
still
there a
dossier.
warrant-
It's all
Was there a
out there.
warrant issued on Trump? Does Trump
I have a
have
question
Fourth
for you.
Amendment-
Did
Wait,
he
no,
make them have
answer
to
the
do
question.
that?
So
Did he
does-
make
does
them do
Trump-
that?
Does Trump? He didn't have control of it. No, but does
Oh,
Trump have
okay.
a Fourth
So
Amendment?
how is it
Does
collusive?
Trump have a Fourth
How
Amendment?
is he on both
interest?
sides of the V?
Does
He
Hold on,
didn't
let-
make the government act
so-
the
Hold
way
on,
they
hold on.
did.
Does
Pisco's
Trump-
asking a
Does
question.
Trump-
He
Does
answered
Trump have
yours.
a Fourth Amendment interest? Does Trump have a Fourth Amendment interest in the communications of Carter Page?
So what part of a U.S.
Answer the question,
citizen
you
and
cuck.
sitting president had a wiretap on them with an unlawful warrant? This
He
is
didn't
only
have it.
in
That
the
was on
wake of...
Carter Page. What's the Fourth Amendment violation?
So they
Does
use
Trump have a
it's
Fourth
through
Amendment
the
interest in
FISA.
Carter
Are you-
Page's communications?
Let me ask you a fucking question, you retarded waffle. Okay. Does the FISA warrant, are those for U.S. citizens or for, and I'm going to give you a hint, the F in FISA is foreign, What
for
is it?
both.
Or is it a foreign war?
You don't know.
Oh.
It's so
Okay.
laughable. It applies to both. Do you really think that FISA only
Why does
applies
sitting
to
congressmen
non-citizens?
push
So
against?
FISA applies more broadly, but that's not the question you were asked. The question is, does Trump have a Fourth Amendment interest in?
I said your claim
Carter
was
Page's,
bullshit.
wait, no. You said that Trump's Fourth Amendment violations were violated, and you pointed to the FISA warrants against Carter Page.
The underlying argument isn't what you're pushing at, though.
Does Trump have a Fourth Amendment interest in Carter Page's possessions, communications?
Yeah, but
He had
you
a
already
civil
gave it
rights
the whole point.
violation
Answer the
before
question.
he
Yeah.
was ever
Why
even
don't you answer
elected.
the
Hold on,
question?
hold on.
Does he have a Fourth Amendment interest?
Stop. He is asking you a question. Just say if you don't know, it's okay to say I don't know.
Well, he already gave
I'm
us
going to
the
say I
answer.
decline to answer.
Well,
Next
you already
Question.
gave
question.
it.
Answer
Well, hold
because you're a coward.
Pisco,
Because you know you got
hold on,
you know you're
I'll answer.
owned once again.
No,
Well,
if you
Pisco
had
already
an
gave us the
IQ
answer
as
when
high
he
as
said
you
that-
think you had, if you had an IQ as high
So-
as you think
so-
you could, what
so-
you could do is
so
literally say,
do you
"Do you know
concede
this
that
thing?"
Trump's
And if I
Fourth
said
Amendment
no
rights
or I
were
didn't,
not
you
violated?
could have walked through it.
I
But
mean,
instead of
so
doing that, you say,
so-
"Do you know Carter?"
You
Guessing
made
don't
a
know Rupert
claim.
Feldman.
You're here for a
Guessing you're
debate.
not-
You made a
Well, hold on.
claim.
Yeah,
So
but hold on.
I'm
You
not
already
going to
treat
treat
you
you
with
with
more
answered
confidence
my.
than DNC.
Hold on, you already answered my claim,
Okay,
though,
this is-
which was
this
there
is-
are facts.
this is-
Hold on, hold on.
So
You already
Streamer-
answered.
hey,
You already
hey,
answered
Streamer.
my
Hey,
question.
So
I know
hey,
you're
hey,
ready.
hey,
Ready
hey,
to
all of
be.
you
Hold on.
motherfuckers, all of you,
God. Every time I
Jesus
start
Christ, all of you, every single one of you, okay, except for Dev. Dev's been a good boy. Stop, okay? Pisco did ask a question. You declined to answer. That's
He didn't
fair.
answer my question.
But then he
Why
gets
does
to
he have to
respond
answer
to your
my- hold on, he doesn't have to answer my question at all.
declination to
What's your
answer.
question, Gibbs?
And I promise you,
Not fair.
after he goes, you will get a chance to ask your questions, Gibbs. But the problem is that you all keep interrupting each other, and it's making it almost impossible to engage with any of
It's an
you.
attempt to try to forfeit the debate. I mean, and when you say something ridiculous like,
forfeiting?
well, Trump's Fourth Amendment rights were violated, therefore he can do this slush fund collusive lawsuit, and when you don't even get the facts right on whether his Fourth Amendment rights were violated, and you embarrassingly choose to not answer the question because you know you're cooked, it's a way of forfeiting the debate and bogging it down.
Yeah, I mean, I asked a simple question: are there multiple factions within the U.S. government? And by factions, I mean Democrat factions. Maybe there's progressives. Maybe there's whatever. Are there Republican factions? Maybe there's.
I
Texas
assume.
Independent.
I
Okay,
guess
you would
there are people
assume.
who
You
think
would
differently.
assume.
Yeah,
You would assume.
It's a collection of U.S.
But when
citizens.
when Streamlift talks about this five-star warrant, I'm not going to try to dive into that. I'm not fully aware of all the details. However, I will argue that I've seen multiple times Trump administration have run-ins with people that are already entrenched in the administration. That's part of why he wanted to get Doge going. That's part of the reason why he's had so much turnover. Is he's been firing all these people? Is because every time he tries to push something, he's stopped by this machine that the Democrats have entrenched, and that's what Streamlift's talking about when he's saying, "Oh, okay,
That's
they're
so
going after them with armed
untrue,
laws."
Gibbs.
It is. Oh, you
So-
just
so
admitted there's
look
factions.
at what he's doing.
This is
Wait,
what's
look,
happening. This is
so
blatantly what's
the
happening.
existence loosely of people with different ideologies and bureaucracies and agencies as a matter of bureaucratic culture, as a matter of just private interest. I'm sure that exists, but that doesn't prove that what Trump did isn't corruption. Trump is on, again, both sides of the V. He is suing the government that he controls. He is the plaintiff and the defendant, and he
So
is
on that
giving
point,
sweeping waivers to himself
You're
for his
saying
own
both
tax
sides.
liability and his.
So-
Yeah, so
You're
that's
saying
true.
both
What I
sides.
just said is
You're saying
true.
both sides of the V, but you're acting as if somehow he was the one that created it. How fucking
but you
insane
just
it
got
is that you would
cooked.
even
You just
pretend in the
got-
light
so
of
first of all,
day that
that is the
Trump
point.
brought this on
First of all,
himself.
now,
If
if you
Trump
open the
had-
investigation,
I do. Hold on. Okay, we are.
So here's the
You're
question.
talking
No,
over
no,
me because you don't want to hear the rest of the argument because you can't fucking handle
No,
it.
I just responded.
Yeah, you're
to you.
so
what was
fucking
what was the
unhinged,
lawsuit?
you
Was
can't
the
literally
lawsuit
listen to
about
things that
FISA?
upset you.
Was the lawsuit about FISA? What was the lawsuit about that Trump brought?
So what part of their
was the
civil
lawsuit
rights
about that Trump
violations
brought?
that the government had against Trump is so
What
upsetting to
violation
you?
was it? What violation was it that he sued about?
I'm not litigating that right now.
Do you know? Do you know or do you not know what he sued over?
Which time? Look,
irrelevant. It's
hold on.
a
I got a question for
Irrelevant what he
Pisco.
sued over.
Pisco,
You
which
just heard him say
lawsuit
it's
are you
irrelevant
referring
what he
to?
sued
Because there's been a
over.
lot.
He's trying to litigate the merits of what he was suing over, and he doesn't know what he sued over.
I'm
irrelevant
trying to
to the
figure out what
point.
lawsuit. Hold on, Pisco. What lawsuit are we
This is the
referring to?
lawsuit of the slush fund. This is the
Okay,
Trump
so the
versus IRS case.
$1.776
He thinks
billion
it's about Carter
lawsuit
Page
thing?
because he's fucking stupid and brain broken. It's not about Carter Page.
Not what he said.
You realize that, right?
No,
Not what I said.
You realize it's not
Is
about
this
Carter
the one?
Page.
Hold on, just for my edification. This is the one about the tax returns, correct?
That's right. Has nothing to do with the FISA
Wait, hold
warrant
on.
process,
That's-
Stream
but
Riffs.
what
So you
did-
got
what did-
cooked
what did-
again.
No,
you don't even know what the
hold on.
lawsuit was
You
about.
just cooked yourself because you don't even know what he asked and said. He didn't say that. He said this has been a reoccurring theme where Trump has been attacked from within his own
He said Fourth
administration
Amendment
by
violation.
the
Fourth
factions,
Amendment
by the
violation.
factions that you already admitted are there. So
He
when
said
you're
Fourth
saying,
Amendment
hold on,
violation.
so you can't sit here with a straight face and any credibility and be like, oh, since Trump is in office, everything that happens under his
Didn't
administration
even know he
is
was
solely
defending.
him.
So this
Like,
is
that
this is
is
why
Gibbs,
this is why this
Gibbs,
is
hold
this
on,
is why
let me
this
hop in
debate-
here.
Dev,
Let me
this
hop
is why
in.
this
Dev,
debate-
Dev gets to go now. Dev gets to go now.
Yeah,
Dev
so-
gets a chance to
Gibbs, just
talk
real quick.
in the debate he's a part of. Dev, go ahead.
So from what I understand, Gibbs, your view seems to be that every time Trump tries to do something, this group of Democrat operatives, you can call them the deep state if you want, but there are people. Yeah, there are people who basically are in like the middle level of the civil service who stop him basically, and that's kind of the
Right. I'll give you a right wing equivalent. Say Ken Paxton, I mentioned him earlier, sued Biden. Would that be like Biden like working against himself if Ken Paxton does it? Like, no. It's like you have people like, yeah, I know it's
What a
state level
comparison.
AG, but but I picked somebody that's actually like kind of doing something with their life.
Okay,
Unlike
well, and the biggest-
Well, let Gibbs go. Let Gibbs go. Let Gibbs go.
Well,
Gibbs
I'm
go.
done.
But then I have a
I've
question
got
for
it.
you after you do that.
Yeah,
Gibbs. Go ahead.
yes.
No, I
So
was just starting to-
Gibbs, real quick. Do you recall when we spoke last week, and
Yeah.
I showed you this, that the Trump administration is not going to do a Doge after action report. So there's going to
Sure.
be there's going to be no public revealing of what Doge actually accomplished. Is this? Can we say that this is actually the fault of the Trump administration, or is this somebody inside working against Trump to not reveal what Doge has done?
Well, no, because Doge is part of a larger organization within them. So, like, I'm sure that if the large organization doesn't have any kind of accounting for it, that would be a problem. I'm sure that they do, and if they don't, then I guess I'll eat crow. But like, I don't necessarily, in and of itself, find no after action report from Doge specifically to be an issue, as long as their parent company or parent little organization does. But I guess that remains to be seen. But like, yeah, I mean, on its surface, it's not my favorite thing.
Okay.
In the
Okay.
spirit of
I do
Thomas
just
Browne,
have to
it'd be
hold on.
nice if
I
they
do
did
just have
release
to.
That's all.
I do just have to ask because again, you brought up Paxton. If
Sure.
Paxton sued Biden as an example
Yeah.
to counter the claim that Pisco was making that the lawsuit about the tax returns was
collusive.
inherently corrupt because Trump controlled both sides of the
Right.
the lawsuit. So again, do you not think it's at least troubling that the person who is in charge of the branch of government that is being sued, and if they do not settle, can fire the people until they do? Do you not think that that's corruption?
I mean, it could be corruption.
It
I'm not going to
could
say
be.
that, right?
And Pisco,
Well,
I'm going to pick on you even
I think
earlier.
it not
Hold
be.
on, no,
Just a
well, no,
second.
because I mean that would imply that the spoil system from the start that we've had in the United States is always going to be corruption, which I don't think is the case. I mean,
Okay,
I think
well,
there are
let me
examples
just
where
ask
it's
you
been
this. Let me
used.
just ask you this, Gibbs. If you were being charged with a crime, okay?
Sure.
Someone accused you of, let's say, theft, right?
Yeah.
You'd stolen $10,000 from WIC TV, okay? So I brought
Stole, yeah.
suit against you. But I could also force you to settle, right? Force you to plead guilty. Would that be justice in your mind?
I would say probably not in that
No.
framing, but I would
Okay.
also say that's not what happened here.
No?
How
No.
how is it not 100% analogous?
Well, let's see. Were these lawsuits opened? Partially while Trump is in office. And some of them were, right?
We're
Yeah.
talking about one
Yeah.
specific
Wait,
lawsuit,
wait, wait,
the
wait.
lawsuit
No, but
against...
although it's interesting you raise that point, Gibbs. That's an interesting point to raise. I just have a question for you two. When was the leak of the IRS tax returns of Trump? When did that occur? Under which presidency?
I have to go back to you insulting me about
Under
having the
which
facts wrong on the
presidency?
FISA.
Under which presidency?
No, you can't just
yeah,
wander past stuff when you don't want to talk about.
No, hold
Wait,
on.
no,
No, Stream Rift. I asked a question, and
Okay.
I want to deal with this specific topic because it is one example
the
of
lawsuit.
corruption. The lawsuit
lawsuit-
specifically against the IRS for leaking, I think it was the IRS, right?
Yes, and that leak happened under Trump's administration, his first administration.
So what does
It
that
was
have to do with the
prosecuted,
price of
and
tea
it
in
was-
China?
Because you
He doesn't-
said
he can't even fire
you
people.
Said you said that
You think
this
he's in
was
charge
all
of it when he
done
can't even
by
fire people?
Democrats, but because you thought that this was the FISA Carter Page situation, you were wrong about that, and now it's been revealed to you. I'm guessing for the first time that the leak happened during Trump's first administration, and it was prosecuted under Joe Biden, for which he received a harsh sentence for that offense. And so the question that is being given to you.
Wait. So you agree that
how is this
things
fair?
opened up under a minute? Hold on. So wait. So this comes back to the original thing when we were talking about Somalia and all the fraud. You're like, oh, okay. Hey, it started under Biden and it was finished under Trump. So this started under Trump and finished under Biden. So I guess Trump gets credit for this too. Like, do you see the problem with the logic like you're using here?
No,
Why is one
not at
counting the other
all.
one doesn't? Oh,
Wait, no, wait.
so the Trump. So if Biden gets credit for that prosecution, that finished.
Once you guys are on something,
Trump doesn't get.
Then Trump gets credit for all the ones that finished under him.
Okay,
Hold
on.
Hang on a second.
The lawsuit.
So
Hold
Biden-
on. When do you think the lawsuit against the IRS
When he was in office,
started?
obviously, we're about to own him with that. Yes. It
Okay,
happened when he was
I
in office.
just-
What does it
He's
have
in
to do
office,
whether
that's
he's
what
in
I
office or not? If
So
the
No,
IRS
because hold
sent
on.
the document-
Because what
Let me-
Gibbs
let
asked,
me-
I'm
let me
going to
answer
explain
Rick's
this. I'm going to
question.
explain this. What Gibbs
Okay.
said was like, hey, if it started before Trump got into office, then
Trump was in office, and so it started with Trump, and it goes into Biden, right? And Biden.
No,
goes,
no,
that
it
goes to
didn't.
Biden.
No.
No.
Listen to what.
This lawsuit. Hold on. This lawsuit started on January 29th, 2026.
And when did the investigation start?
Right. Well, so let's just
What
hold off on
investigation?
this
What
for
are you
a sec,
talking about?
Gibbs.
Which
Let's just. I want to hit it right on the nose.
Wait, so
Okay.
this
So
lawsuit-
here's the thing.
there's two different
Pisco,
things.
I have a
There was
yes
no
or no question
investigation
for you
before the
whenever you're
lawsuit
ready.
started?
So-
Wait, hold on.
so-
Was there no
this
investigation
answers
before the
Rick's
lawsuit
question.
started?
There was an investigation and a charge against this individual under the Biden administration,
Right,
but
right,
Trump
but-
sued after while he was
Pisco.
allegedly president in 2026, and this is the collusive lawsuit with the
No,
slush
so
fund.
when
That's
Yes
what
or
you're
no
being
answer
pointed
this
to.
one.
When
Yes
so
or no
lawsuit
answer this
starts,
one.
hold on. When lawsuit starts, that's the start of an investigation. Is the minute the lawsuit's filed. They don't investigate beforehand. They just
No,
they file right off the bat.
I just explained it to you. There was a government investigation under Joe Biden. There was
Okay.
an indictment. Well, maybe they investigated also during the Trump administration. Yeah, sure. You can get partial. No, so if that's what you're referring to, we're not debating the indictment of this individual. We all think this person should have been indicted and prosecuted. Maybe it started during Trump. What we're debating is not the indictment. We're debating the slush fund and the collusive lawsuit, which is a
but
different thing.
Here's the point that I'm making. Back to the original point we were talking about originally, right? So if the investigation started under Trump, finished under Biden with the lawsuit, and he was convicted, right? Then all the ones earlier when you said, "Oh, those started under Biden," and then Trump finished them,
No.
those all count towards Trump. Like
So
Trump's
no.
conviction rate.
The point
the
on
same
that,
logic,
right?
right?
Is
It's the
no.
same logic.
So I'm not in the business of giving every president like automatic wins for things that happen under their administration. The reason why it's relevant, the reason why it's relevant to bring up that it happened under Democratic presidencies is to rebut the accusation of corruption that you levied. So it's relevant for the specific purpose of undermining the credence that this was motivated by corruption, in that if it was motivated by corruption, we wouldn't expect to see these overt prosecutorial acts occur under Democratic presidencies. That's why the way in which it's relevant. But I'm fine. If you want to give Trump
Okay, I
credit
do
for
want
the
to give them a
investigation
chance to
of the leaking
respond.
of his own
Pisco.
IRS reports, that's fine.
I do want to give them a chance to respond, but then Dev was still going with his questions. But respond. I want to give it to Rift and then to Gibbs to respond, and then Dev, continue your questions. And then I have a lot more super chats. But yeah.
So, Pisco, here's a signature yes or no question. I know you're a fan of them. Did the IRS violate Trump's rights by leaking his tax returns?
Not his
Yes or
not
no?
his Fourth Amendment rights. No, not his Fourth
That
Amendment
was
rights.
the
No.
question. I said yes or no. Did they violate
Yeah,
his
so
rights?
I'm not
So
aware that
what you're
they
saying
violated
is that
his
the
rights. No.
IRS
The answer
shouldn't be held
the answer is no.
accountable because Trump was
I didn't say
president.
that.
His
You
answer
asked
to
whether-
you is no. He says no.
So your question was whether it violated his rights, and my answer to that is no.
Cool.
What rights did it violate?
No, you answered my question. Go ahead, Dev.
Well, do you assert that it violated rights? Yes or no?
Dev was going to speak, but yes.
What
rights did he
what
violate?
rights? Yeah, what rights did he violate?
Well, so we have we have privacy protection on a number of things. We can't, like, for example, the government can't leak Medicare. So this is a part of where I think some of your bad faith. I cannot cite the law where I should not hit punch a cop.
He's not
but I
asking
know
you
very
the.
well
He's not.
it's
Hold on, just
illegal
real
to
quick.
punch
He's
a
not
cop.
asking you the law. He's asking you for the right. So the right to privacy. That's a perfectly valid answer.
Well,
Yeah,
let me
here's
answer. Let me answer.
Yeah, let
Pisco,
him
me
answer.
I didn't
Right.
finish. I
Go
didn't
ahead.
finish.
Please, Rift.
So the whole premise of this is if we're submitting our financial documents and our social security number and our business information and our business financials to the government, they do have a reason. There's some duty, I believe, imposed in them actually having that information.
government.
And
Yes,
I'm not
yes.
done yet. And I'm not done yet. So when the government, through its officials, violates that, leaks information, I believe
they
that
didn't do
creates an
that.
actionable event. And that's the entire premise
No.
of why.
It would be like, so here's the explanation. Your rights run to the government, right? If someone goes into your house, Stream Riffs, and like does a computer espionage and steals your documents and all that stuff, yeah, no doubt. As against that person, you have a private cause of action probably under a number of federal statutes related to computer fraud. The government does have an obligation not to release some of this information, but this was a rogue IRS actor over which the IRS did not approve that decision. And so the cause of action runs to the person who actually did the harm to Trump. That is where the
Well,
where it
so
happens,
this
but
is
the
where
IRS
your lawyer is
Didn't this
showing.
guy work for
the-
Obama though originally, and so then he got the job as a contractor with the IRS. After that, it seems
Oh,
like
it's a contractor.
Same answer. Wait. Hang on a second. So I think he worked for Booz Allen or something. He was some contractor, but
Oh,
that
really?
doesn't
That's
change,
weird.
That doesn't change the analysis just offered. Before, so understand where we are first, right? So first, the argument was
TV debate
we
panel.
violated the Fourth Amendment rights of Donald Trump. When you were crushed on that point, now you're like, oh well, there's some privacy
So
concerns.
you
Yeah,
can keep
listen,
saying that.
on that
there are
point,
regimes-
on that point,
there are
on that
regimes
point,
of
because
privacy,
you brought it
but
up
they
3,
weren't
4,
violated
5
by
times.
they weren't
You brought it up
violated by
3
the
or 4 or 5
IRS. The
times.
IRS,
The reason
the IRS
why
did not violate his rights.
why
yeah. So wait,
the reason
a
why
former Obama
I used
operator,
just a second, just 10 seconds. The reason why I brought up a 2015 example was because it could not possibly be the case that the president had any opportunity to plan his own crime that way, and that was, or plan the crime against him or the infringement on his rights. So it was a timeline argument.
Yeah,
It
but
was,
that's not what the lawsuit was about. So you were just
Well,
wrong on that.
I-
Why would you bring up an irrelevant thing?
I just
were
told you
it was
why I brought it
embarrassing.
up, and
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the lawsuit.
Well,
though. So why would
this
you bring up
comes-
something
this
that has
comes
nothing
back-
to do with the
because
lawsuit?
it's a victim
this is like what you're
persecution
saying.
fund.
Well,
Go ahead,
you
Gibbs.
brought up the slush fund lawsuit, and then I brought up the one time some guy
What's the
like,
slush
ran
fund
over my
for?
dog.
Is it?
Okay, so
Isn't it for J6? Isn't it for rights violations by the DOJ?
So just to
And
be
I
clear,
guess
so just
IRS is
so
yeah. go ahead.
just to be clear, it would be like you saying, well,
don't think you
it
wanna
was
be.
justified. It was justified for us to do the slush fund because don't you know they ran over his dog. And I picked that event because it like predates when he assumed office. So that's why I picked it. It makes no sense. There's no connection there. What was the rights deprivation that is the cause for this collusive lawsuit? You've been asked multiple times, and there's no justification for.
So
the
it's
collusive
been
lawsuit.
labeled.
How do you
So
defend
I'm
it?
going to wrap on this. It's labeled the Anti-Weaponization Fund, and I think that was the genesis of a very tangible example of the weaponization of the government against private citizens.
have a defense for
So
the
that's
collusive
where the
lawsuit or not?
confusion comes from.
Do you have a defense for the collusive lawsuit or not for the slush fund?
The whole fucking point that you are evading, you're already assuming that the government individual actor that you just listed off here, who was or was not a contractor, did or did not work with Booz Allen, did or did not have connections with Obama, you're saying, well, it was a government agent, so he'll never be held accountable. So it's like the violation didn't happen. But
I
that's
never said any of that
offensive.
stuff. This is all. I never said what you're just saying.
Okay.
He
do-
absolutely could.
We
could
do
have
got
a
Okay,
case
hold
against
on.
this
hold
individual.
on
Here, I have
Oh,
a question here.
Dev,
Stream Rift.
quickly.